The trauma bay doors explode open and four armed soldiers in tactical gear flood in, rifles slung, boots hammering tile. But they don't scan for threats. They stop. Lock eyes on a figure in the corner, a woman in pale blue scrubs, hair pulled back, hands still gloved from an IV she just placed. And then, in perfect unison, they snap to attention, spines straight, chins high, saluting. Not the chief surgeon barking orders across the room, not the head of trauma running the code. Her. The quiet one they've been shoving aside all shift, the one they called slow. Incompetent, a liability. 30 seconds ago, she was told to step back and let the real professionals work. Now the room's gone dead silent, and a dying man is staring at her like he's seen a ghost. Because the woman they thought was just a nurse? She's the reason half of them are still alive. If you want to see how power shifts when the truth comes out, if you want to watch the ones who underestimated her finally understand what they just lost, stay with me until the end. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The ambulance bay at Riverside General smelled like diesel and old coffee. Elena Marsh stood just inside the automatic doors, arms crossed, watching the paramedics unload a gurney at full sprint. She'd been on shift for 11 hours. Her back ached. Her scrubs had a coffee stain near the hem from when she'd bumped into the break room counter that morning. Nobody had spoken to her in the last 2 hours, except to ask where supplies were, or to tell her she was standing in the way. GSW to the chest, BP dropping, lost pulse once en route. The lead paramedic's voice crackled over the noise as they rolled the patient in. Elena moved to follow, but a hand shot out and blocked her path. "We've got this." Dr. Marcus Calloway didn't even look at her. He was already gloved, already striding toward the trauma bay like he owned it. Behind him, 2 residents and a senior attending fell into formation. Elena stayed where she was, watching the organized chaos through the glass partition that separated the hallway from the trauma room. She'd learned not to push, not here, not yet. Pushing got you written up. Pushing got you labeled difficult. Pushing got you sent home early with a note in your file that followed you everywhere. Inside the bay, the patient was a man in his 40s. Olive drab undershirt soaked through with blood, dog tags swinging as they transferred him to the table. His face was pale, lips gray, eyes half open but unfocused. Someone shouted for Oneg. Someone else called for a chest tube tray. Calloway leaned over the man's torso, fingers probing the wound site with the kind of confidence that came from years of practice and zero self-doubt. "Pneumothorax, possible hemothorax. Get me a 28 French and prep for intubation." Elena's eyes tracked the monitor above the bed. Heart rate climbing, oxygen sat dropping. The man's breathing was shallow, uneven, and his right lung wasn't moving the way it should. She stepped closer to the glass, close enough that her breath fogged it slightly. A nurse she didn't recognize glanced back and saw her standing there. "You can go help with intake. We're covered here." Elena didn't move. On the table, the patient suddenly jerked. His eyes snapped open, wild, unfocused, darting around the room like he was looking for an exit. He tried to sit up. 2 residents pinned his shoulders, pressing him back down against the mattress. "Sir, stay still." "No!" His voice was a rasp, barely audible over the beeping monitors and the shuffle of feet. "No doctors, not you people." Calloway frowned, glancing at the attending beside him. "Sir, you've been shot. You need immediate treatment." The man's hand shot out, grabbing Calloway's wrist. His grip was weak but desperate, fingers digging in like he was holding onto the edge of a cliff. "I said no." "Sir, get off me." The monitors started screaming. His BP spiked, then plummeted. Someone yelled for sedation. The man thrashed harder, ripping the oxygen mask off his face. His breath came in broken gasps, each one shallower than the last. Elena pushed through the door. "I told you we're covered," the nurse snapped, stepping into her path. Elena ignored her. She moved to the head of the bed, leaning down so the man could see her face. His eyes locked on hers, panicked, glassy with pain, searching for something he couldn't name. "You're hypoxic," she said quietly, just loud enough for him to hear. "Your lungs collapsed. If they don't decompress it in the next 60 seconds, you're going to code. You understand that?" He stared at her. His chest heaved, ribs straining against skin. "You trust me or you don't," she said. "But either way, you're out of time." For a second, the chaos seemed to pause. The shouting dimmed. The alarms faded into background noise. Then the man's hand released Calloway's wrist. His head fell back against the pillow. His lips moved, forming a single word. Okay. Elena straightened. He's consenting. Move. Calloway's face flushed red. Excuse me? Tension pneumothorax. You need to needle decompress now or he's gone. I'm aware of the monitor flatlined. Someone screamed. Compression started immediately, hands locking over the man's sternum, pressing down in rhythmic bursts. Calloway grabbed the defibrillator paddles, but his hands were shaking. Elena saw it. Everyone saw it. The attending saw it and looked away like pretending would make it stop. She stepped forward. Let me. You're a nurse. And you're stalling. His jaw tightened, teeth grinding audibly. Get out of my trauma bay. The patient's body jerked under compressions. No pulse. No breath sounds. The residents looked at each other, then at Calloway, then at the attending. Waiting for orders that weren't coming. Waiting for someone to take control. Elena moved. She didn't ask permission. She grabbed a 14-gauge needle from the crash cart, swabbed the second intercostal space on the patient's right side with an alcohol pad, and drove the needle in at a sharp angle just lateral to the sternum. There was a hiss, sudden, audible even over the alarms. Air escaped in a pressurized rush. The patient's chest expanded, visibly inflating. Resume compressions, she said. The resident hesitated, looking at Calloway. Now. He pressed down. Once, twice. The monitor beeped. Faint, irregular, then steady. A rhythm building back from nothing. The room exhaled collectively, shoulders dropping, hands loosening. Calloway stared at her. His face had gone from red to white in the span of 5 seconds. You just performed a procedure without authorization. I saved his life. You violated protocol. He was dead. You don't have the authority Then write me up. She stripped off her gloves and dropped them in the hazard bin near the door. But he's breathing. She walked out before he could respond, the door swinging shut behind her with a soft hiss. The nurse's station was quiet at this hour. Most of the staff were either in patient rooms or huddled in the break room waiting for the next wave. Elena sat in a plastic chair near the back, filling out an incident report she knew would go nowhere. Her hands were steady, but her pulse hadn't settled yet. She'd been here before. Different hospital, different city. Same story. Do the right thing. Get punished for it. The system didn't reward people who broke ranks, even when breaking ranks was the only thing that made sense. Footsteps approached from the hallway. She didn't look up. Dr. Voss wants to see you. Elena closed the file and stood, tucking the pen into her pocket. Dr. Raymond Voss was the kind of man who wore his authority like a tailored suit, perfectly fitted, impossible to ignore. Gray hair swept back, sharp jaw, eyes that didn't blink when he spoke. His office overlooked the ambulance bay, a corner room with windows on 2 sides and a desk that looked like it cost more than Elena's car. She'd been in here twice before. Once when she was hired. Once when she was written up for questioning a discharge order that later turned out to be wrong. The patient had been readmitted 3 days later in critical condition. No one apologized. She stood in front of his desk. He didn't ask her to sit. You performed a needle decompression without attending supervision. The attending froze. That's not your call to make. The patient was coding. Dr. Calloway is a board-certified trauma surgeon with 15 years of experience. And in 15 years, he should have learned not to hesitate. Voss's expression didn't change. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled in front of him like he was about to deliver a lecture. You have a problem with authority, Miss Marsh. I have a problem with incompetence. Then you're in the wrong profession. He let the words hang there for a moment, watching her face for a reaction. This isn't a battlefield. We have protocols, hierarchies, chain of command. You don't get to override a physician because you think you know better. Elena said nothing. You're suspended. 2 weeks. Pending review. She blinked. You're suspending me for saving a patient's life. I'm suspending you for insubordination. He slid a folder across the desk, the paper crisp and official looking. Sign the acknowledgement. You're off the schedule effective immediately. Elena stared at the paper, her name printed in bold at the top, her signature line at the bottom, a box she was supposed to check that said she understood the terms of her suspension and accepted responsibility for her actions. She picked up the pen, signed without reading the rest. Then she walked out. The parking lot was dark, lit only by a few flickering streetlights that buzzed like dying insects. Elena's car was parked in the far corner beneath one of the broken lights where the pavement was cracked and uneven. She unlocked the door, tossed her bag in the passenger seat, and sat behind the wheel. She didn't start the engine. She just sat there, staring at the dashboard, watching the digital clock tick over from 11:47 to 11:48. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something, instinct, curiosity, the fact that she had nothing left to lose, told her to. Hello? Silence. Then a voice, low, careful, like the person on the other end was checking to make sure they had the right number. Elena Marsh? She straightened. Who is this? My name is Lieutenant Commander Daniel Cross. I was the patient you treated tonight. Her hand tightened on the phone. You shouldn't be calling me. I know, but I needed to. A pause, the sound of someone shifting position. You saved my life. You're welcome. I mean it. I've been in worse situations than that. I've seen people hesitate under pressure. You didn't. I did my job. No. His voice was firm now, the tone of someone who knew what they were talking about. You did more than that. Another pause, longer this time. I looked you up. Elena's chest tightened. What? Your file. Your service record. It's redacted, almost entirely. Just a few lines. Dates that don't add up, assignments that don't exist anymore. She didn't respond. Why would a trauma nurse have a classified military file? I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. His tone softened, losing the edge. I've been in the service for 22 years. I know what redacted means. I know what it looks like when someone's been erased, when someone's been buried so deep that even their own people can't find them. Elena's throat was dry. I'm not who you think I am. Then tell me who you are. She ended the call. Sit. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Elena lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation in her head. He'd looked her up. He knew, or at least he knew enough to ask the right questions. And if he could ask the right questions, that meant other people could too. People who had more access than a Navy commander recovering from a gunshot wound. She hadn't thought about the file in years. She'd assumed it was buried so deep no one would ever find it. Redacted, classified, sealed under so many layers of bureaucracy that even she couldn't access it if she tried. But redacted wasn't the same as gone. And if Cross had access to even a fragment of it, that meant someone else might too. Her phone buzzed again. Same number. She let it ring. It stopped. Then a text came through. I'm not trying to cause you trouble. I just need to know if I'm right. She typed back, You're not. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Then why did you hang up? She stared at the screen for a long moment, deleted the message she'd started typing, turned off her phone, and set it face down on the nightstand. The next morning, she got a call from the hospital. Not Voss, not HR, security. Ms. Marsh, we need you to come in and collect your personal belongings. Your locker access has been revoked. She didn't argue. She drove to Riverside General, parked in the visitor lot instead of the employee lot, and walked in through the side entrance near the loading dock. The locker room was empty when she arrived. Her things were already packed in a cardboard box sitting on the bench in front of her locker. Badge, stethoscope, a jacket she'd left hanging on a hook, a photo she'd taped to the inside of the door, her and 2 other women in uniform standing in front of a helicopter, grinning like they'd just survived something impossible. She picked up the box and turned to leave. The door swung open. Marcus Calloway stood in the doorway, still in his scrubs from the night shift, coffee cup in one hand. You cost me my reputation, he said. Elena set the box down on the bench. You did that yourself. I've been practicing medicine for 15 years. I've saved more lives than you've ever seen. Then you shouldn't have frozen. His face twisted, jaw clenching so hard she could see the muscle jump. You think you're better than me because you stuck a needle in someone's chest? That's basic field medicine. A paramedic could have done that. But you didn't. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath. You don't belong here. You never did. I don't know what strings you pulled to get hired, but you're out now, and you're not coming back. Elena held his gaze, unflinching. You're right. I don't belong here. He blinked, caught off guard. I belong somewhere better. She picked up the box and walked past him, shoulder brushing his as she went. 3 days later, Elena was sitting in her apartment when the news broke. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Cross had been transferred to a secure military medical facility. No details, no statement from the Navy, no press release, just a brief mention on a local news ticker that scrolled across the bottom of the screen while a weather reporter talked about an incoming storm system. Her phone rang. Unknown number, different from before. She answered, Ms. Marsh. The voice was clipped, professional, the kind of voice that belonged to someone who gave orders and expected them to be followed. Military. This is Colonel Andrew Finch, United States Navy. I'm calling regarding Commander Cross. Elena's pulse quickened. Is he okay? He's stable, but there's been a complication. What kind of complication? The kind that involves his medical records being flagged by a federal oversight committee. A pause, deliberate and weighted. And yours? Elena closed her eyes, leaning back against the couch. I'm retired. Retired personnel don't have classified service records, Ms. Marsh. Erased personnel do. And right now, someone very interested in erased personnel is asking questions. Silence stretched between them, thick and uncomfortable. I need you to come in, voluntarily. Today. We can do this quietly, or we can do this the other way. And if I don't, then this becomes a different conversation, one that involves federal agents and a lot fewer options. She hung up. Cab. 2 hours later, there was a knock at her door. She looked through the peephole. 2 men in dark suits standing in the hallway, hands clasped in front of them, expressions blank. Federal agents, most likely. Or contractors. Or something worse that didn't have a name yet. She didn't open the door. Miss Marsh, we just want to talk. She grabbed her phone, scrolling through contacts she hadn't looked at in years. Names she'd promised herself she'd never call again. People who'd moved on, disappeared, built new lives in places where no one asked questions. She found the one she needed and dialed. It rang once, twice. A voice answered. Familiar. Hard as stone. Marsh? I need an extraction. Where are you? Home. Stay put. 10 minutes. The line went dead. Elena grabbed a go bag from under her bed, always packed, always ready, a habit she'd never been able to break. Spare clothes, cash, a fake ID she'd kept as insurance. A pistol she wasn't supposed to own. She moved to the window, pulling the curtain back just enough to see the street below. The agents were still at the door. She could hear them talking now, voices muffled but audible through the wood. One of them was on the phone. The other was deciding whether to force entry. Then outside, an engine roared. A black SUV pulled up to the curb, tires screeching slightly as it stopped. The passenger door opened before the vehicle was fully stopped. A woman in tactical gear stepped out, scanning the street with the kind of efficiency that came from years of doing this exact thing in places where hesitation got you killed. Elena didn't wait. She climbed out the window, dropped to the fire escape, and hit the pavement running. The SUV's door was still open. She dove in, pulling the door shut behind her. Go. The driver didn't ask questions. The vehicle peeled out, tires smoking as they accelerated down the narrow street. Behind them, the agents ran into the street, shouting. One of them pulled a phone. The other drew a weapon but didn't fire. Too many witnesses. Too many windows. Elena looked at the woman in the passenger seat. Short dark hair streaked with gray. Scar across her jaw that ran from her ear to the corner of her mouth. Sergeant Maya Reeves. Former Delta. Former Ghost. Former a lot of things. You just made yourself a fugitive, Reeves said, not looking back. I know. They're going to come after you hard. Burn every bridge you've got. Make sure you can't hide. I know. Reeves smiled, a sharp, dangerous expression. Good. Been a while since we had any fun. The SUV turned onto the highway, merging into traffic like they were just another commuter heading out of the city. Elena watched the skyline disappear in the rearview mirror, the tall buildings shrinking until they were just shapes against the horizon. Somewhere behind her, alarms were going off. Calls were being made. A woman who wasn't supposed to exist had just resurfaced, and now everyone wanted to know why. They drove for 2 hours without stopping. No music, no conversation, just the hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of the radio as Reeves monitored encrypted channels. Elena sat in the back, staring out the window, watching the landscape shift from urban sprawl to suburban neighborhoods, to open highway lined with fields and trees. Finally, Reeves spoke. "Where are we going?" Elena didn't answer immediately. She was thinking about Cross, about the file, about the fact that someone had flagged her records after 8 years of silence. "Somewhere they won't look," she said. "That's not a place. That's a prayer." "Then pray harder." Reeves laughed, a short bark of sound. "You haven't changed." "Neither have you." They pulled off the highway onto a dirt road that wound through dense forest. The SUV bounced over ruts and potholes, branches scraping the sides. After another 20 minutes, they reached a clearing. A cabin sat in the center, small and weathered, surrounded by trees on all sides. No neighbors, no roads, no way in except the path they'd just taken. The driver killed the engine. Reeves turned in her seat. "This is off-grid. No cell service, no internet, no paper trail. You can stay here as long as you need." Elena climbed out, slinging the go-bag over her shoulder. "Who owns it?" "No one. Officially?" "And unofficially?" Reeves smiled. "People like us." The cabin was sparse inside. A single room with a bed, a table, a wood-burning stove. Supplies stacked in the corner, canned food, bottled water, medical kits. A rifle mounted on the wall. Elena set her bag down and turned to Reeves. "Why are you helping me?" Reeves tilted her head, studying her. "Because you helped me once. Mosul, 2009. Remember?" Elena did. A firefight that had gone sideways. Reeves pinned down in a building with no exit. Elena had been the medic attached to their unit. She'd run across open ground under fire, dragged Reeves out, patched a sucking chest wound with duct tape and a plastic bag because that's all they had. "That was a long time ago," Elena said. "Debts don't expire." Reeves turned to leave, pausing in the doorway. "They're going to find you eventually. You know that, right?" "I know." "And when they do?" Elena met her eyes. "I'll be ready." Reeves nodded once and walked out. The SUV started up again, tires crunching over gravel, and then the sound faded into the distance until all that was left was silence. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. Her phone was off. Her life was in a box in the trunk of a car she'd left behind. She was alone in a cabin in the middle of nowhere with a rifle on the wall and a past that wouldn't stay buried. And somewhere out there, people were looking for her. She lasted 3 days before the boredom became unbearable. 3 days of canned soup and stale bread and staring at the ceiling. 3 days of listening to the wind in the trees and the creak of the floorboards and the sound of her own thoughts circling endlessly. On the 4th day, she turned her phone back on. 17 missed calls. 12 voicemails. 36 text messages. Most of them were from numbers she didn't recognize. A few were from Reeves checking in. One was from Cross. She opened it. "They're asking questions. About you. About what happened in Syria. I didn't tell them anything, but they know something's off. Be careful." Syria. The word hit her like a punch to the gut. She hadn't thought about Syria in years. Hadn't let herself think about it. That was the mission that didn't exist. The one that had been scrubbed from every record, every file, every official document. The one that had cost her everything. She deleted the message and turned the phone off again. But that night she dreamed. Sand, heat, the sound of rotors overhead, a convoy moving through the desert, trucks kicking up dust in long plumes. She was in the back of one of them, medical kit at her feet, rifle across her lap. Across from her sat Lieutenant Sarah Klein, grinning despite the 120-degree heat. "How much longer?" Klein asked. 2 hours? Maybe 3. "I hate this place. Everyone hates this place." The truck hit something. An IED, a mine, something that turned the world into fire and noise and chaos. Elena was thrown clear, landing hard in the sand. Her ears were ringing, blood in her mouth. She looked up and saw the truck on its side, flames pouring from the engine. She ran. Klein was pinned under the wreckage, legs crushed, screaming. Elena tried to pull her out, but the metal was too heavy, too hot. She could smell burning flesh. Klein grabbed her arm. Go. I'm not leaving you. Elena, go. And then the second explosion hit, and everything went white. Elena woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The cabin was dark, silent. She sat up, heart pounding, trying to remember where she was. Syria, Klein, the mission that didn't exist. She got up, splashed water on her face from the bucket near the stove, and stood at the window staring out into the night. The forest was a wall of black, impenetrable and endless. Somewhere out there, people were still asking questions, and soon they'd come looking for answers. Done. On the fifth day, Reeves came back. She arrived just after dawn, pulling up in the same SUV, engine idling. Elena was already awake, sitting at the table with a cup of instant coffee that tasted like dirt. Reeves knocked once and came in. We've got a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where federal agents raided your apartment, impounded your car, and froze your bank accounts. She dropped a folder on the table. They're calling you a person of interest in an ongoing investigation. Investigation into what? Unauthorized disclosure of classified information. Elena stared at the folder. I haven't disclosed anything. They don't care. They're building a case, and they're using Cross as leverage. What do you mean? Reeves opened the folder, pulling out a surveillance photo. It showed Cross in a hospital bed, two men in suits standing beside him. They're questioning him, hard, trying to get him to say you told him something you shouldn't have. I didn't tell him anything. Then you need to prove it. Elena shook her head. I can't prove a negative. No, but you can prove what really happened in Syria. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Elena looked up. That mission doesn't exist. It did. And someone knows about it, someone high enough to bury it and everyone involved. But they missed something. What? Reeves pulled out another document, a single page, heavily redacted, with only a few lines visible. A after-action report, filed by your commanding officer 3 days before he died in a training accident that wasn't an accident. Elena took the page, scanning the visible text. Most of it was blacked out, but one line was clear. Operative Marsh exceeded mission parameters to prevent civilian casualties, recommended for commendation. Her hands were shaking. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Yes. Reeves sat down across from her. There's a vault, off books, where they keep the files they don't want anyone to see. I know someone who has access. And they just gave this to you? No, I paid for it. A lot. Elena set the page down. Why? Because I told you, debts don't expire. Reeves leaned forward. You saved my life. You saved a lot of lives. And the people who buried that mission, they need to answer for it. Elena closed her eyes. If I do this, if I go after them, I'm never coming back from it. You're already gone, Marsh. You've been gone for 8 years. The only question is whether you disappear quietly or whether you make them remember why they were afraid of you in the first place. Silence. Then Elena opened her eyes. What do you need me to do? Reeves smiled. First, we need to get Cross somewhere safe. Then we need to find the rest of that file. And then we burn the people who tried to erase you. Just like that? Just like that. Elena stood, walking to the window. The sun was rising, pale light filtering through the trees. Somewhere out there, people were hunting her, building a case, tightening the noose. But she'd been hunted before, and she was still here. She turned back to Reeves. When do we start? Now. They left the cabin within the hour. Reeves drove while Elena sat in the passenger seat, studying the after-action report. The more she read, the more pieces started falling into place. The mission had been a black op. No official oversight, no paper trail, no acknowledgement. The objective had been simple: eliminate a high-value target in a contested zone. But when they'd arrived, the target had been surrounded by civilians. women, children. Elena had refused the order to proceed. Her CO had backed her. The mission had been aborted. 2 weeks later, her entire unit was reassigned. 3 months after that, half of them were dead. Training accidents, equipment failures. One guy wrapped his car around a tree at 90 miles an hour on a straight road. The survivors were scattered, erased, buried under new identities and sealed files. And now someone was digging it all back up. Why now? Elena asked, not looking up from the page. Because Cross stumbled onto something, Reeves said. His injury wasn't random. He was investigating discrepancies in supply chain records, found evidence of black budget funding being funneled to operations that don't exist, your operation, and when he started asking questions, someone tried to shut him up. The gunshot? Wasn't a mugging, wasn't gang violence, it was a message. Elena's jaw tightened. Who? That's what we need to find out. They drove for another hour, finally pulling into the parking lot of a nondescript motel on the outskirts of a town Elena didn't recognize. Reeves killed the engine and turned to her. Cross is in room 12. He's expecting you. Elena got out, walking across the cracked pavement to the door. She knocked twice. The door opened. Cross stood there, pale and thinner than she remembered, bandages visible under his shirt. He looked at her for a long moment, then stepped aside. She went in. The room was small, dimly lit, curtains drawn. A laptop sat open on the bed, files scattered around it. Cross closed the door and locked it. They're coming for you, he said. I know. And you came anyway. You called. He smiled faintly. I didn't think you'd answer. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the laptop screen. It showed a spreadsheet, rows of numbers, dates, transaction codes. What am I looking at? Proof, Cross said. Proof that someone's been using military funds to finance off-books operations for the last decade. Operations that officially don't exist, including yours. She scanned the data, recognizing patterns. Supply requisitions, personnel transfers, budget allocations that didn't match any authorized program. Who authorized this? That's the question. Cross sat down beside her. I've been tracking it for months. Every time I get close to a name, the trail goes cold. But there's one constant. He clicked a few keys, bringing up a different file. A personnel roster. Elena's breath caught. There, halfway down the list, was a name she recognized. Colonel Andrew Finch. The same man who'd called her 3 days ago. The same man who'd told her to come in voluntarily. She looked at Cross. He's the one who buried the mission? I think so, but I can't prove it. Not yet. Then we need to make him prove it himself. Cross frowned. How? Elena stood, pacing the small room. He thinks I'm running. He thinks I'm scared. That makes him confident. Confident people make mistakes. What are you saying? She turned to face him. I'm saying we give him what he wants. We let him think he's won. And when he comes to collect, we take everything. Cross stared at her. That's insane. It's the only play we have. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, what do you need? A location, somewhere public, somewhere he can't disappear me without witnesses. And then? Elena smiled, a cold, dangerous expression. Then we see how far he's willing to go to keep his secrets buried. Cross leaned back against the motel dresser, arms crossed, studying her like she was a tactical problem he couldn't quite solve. You're talking about using yourself as bait. I'm talking about controlling the narrative. Elena moved to the window, pulling the curtain back just enough to see the parking lot, empty except for Reeves's SUV and a rusted pickup truck that looked like it hadn't moved in weeks. Right now, Finch thinks he's hunting me. That puts him in control. We flip that, we change everything. And if he doesn't take the bait, he will. Men like him can't help themselves. They need to be the smartest person in the room. She let the curtain fall. We just have to make him think he is. Cross pushed off the dresser, moving to the laptop. His fingers flew across the keys, pulling up a map of the city. There's a veterans memorial downtown. Opens to the public every day at 9. Security cameras everywhere, but also lots of foot traffic, civilians. Press sometimes shows up for photo ops. Elena studied the map. The memorial sat in the center of a plaza, surrounded by office buildings and a coffee shop that probably did decent business from the morning commute. Multiple exit points. Clear sight lines. Hard to disappear someone without being seen. When's the next event there? Tomorrow. Some local politician doing a ribbon cutting for a new wing. Media will be all over it. Perfect. Elena turned to Reeves, who'd been standing quietly near the door the whole time. Can you get word to Finch? Make it look like someone spotted me near the memorial? Reeves smiled. I can do better than that. I can make it look like you reached out. Like you want to negotiate. He won't believe that. He doesn't have to believe it. He just has to want it to be true. Reeves pulled out her phone, already typing. Desperate people make contact. Scared people try to bargain. You've been off the grid for 5 days. He'll think you're cracking. Cross looked between them. And when he shows up? We record everything, Elena said. Every word, every reaction, and we make sure it goes somewhere he can't bury it. Like where? Like everywhere. Reeves pocketed her phone. I know a journalist. Real one. Not the kind who takes payoffs. She's been digging into Black Ops funding for years. Give her proof, she'll run with it. Elena nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. It wasn't a perfect plan. Too many variables. Too many ways it could go sideways. But perfect plans were a luxury she'd never had, even back when she had the full weight of the military behind her. Cross closed the laptop. What about me? Where do I fit in this? You stay here, Elena said. You're the insurance. If something happens to me, you make sure that data gets out. I'm not hiding in a motel room while you walk into a trap. You're not hiding. You're the failsafe. She met his eyes. You're the reason this whole thing started. If Finch finds out you're involved, he'll come after you too. And unlike me, you're still active duty. You still have something to lose. He didn't like it. She could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his hands curled into fists at his sides. But he also knew she was right. Fine, he said finally. But you wear a wire, and you check in every 15 minutes. Deal. Reeves glanced at her watch. We've got 18 hours. I'll set up the meet, coordinate with the journalist, and get you the equipment. You should get some rest. You look like you haven't slept in a week. Elena almost laughed. I haven't. Then start now. You're no good to anyone if you're running on fumes. She was right, but Elena's body had forgotten how to sleep without adrenaline wearing off first. Still, she nodded. Reeves left, the door clicking shut behind her. Cross moved to the bed, gathering up the scattered files. You're really going to do this, he said. Not a question. Yeah. You know there's a chance he just shoots you on sight. There's a chance of a lot of things. Elena sat down in the chair by the window, tilting her head back against the worn upholstery. But Finch isn't a shooter. He's a politician in uniform. He'll want to talk first, figure out what I know, who I've told, what my angle is. And if you're wrong, then I guess you'll have a good story to tell the journalist. Cross shook his head, but he was almost smiling. You're insane. I've been called worse. He finished packing up the laptop, zipping it into a weathered backpack. For what it's worth, I'm glad you didn't turn your phone off permanently. When I sent that text, I thought it was a long shot. It was. But you answered anyway. Elena looked at him, really looked at him. The bandages under his shirt, the way he moved carefully, like his ribs were still screaming at him. The fact that he was here at all instead of in a secure facility letting the Navy handle it. Why are you doing this? She asked. You could walk away. Let them bury it. Keep your career intact. Cross was quiet for a moment. Then he said, When I was 19, I enlisted because I wanted to serve something bigger than myself. I believed in the system, believed it was fair, that it protected people who did the right thing. He sat down on the edge of the bed. And then I spent 22 years learning that's not always true, that sometimes the system protects the wrong people, and sometimes it buries the right ones. Disillusionment is a hell of a drug. It's not disillusionment, it's clarity. He met her eyes. You saved my life. And then I found out someone tried to erase yours. That's not something I can walk away from. Elena didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. The silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, just heavy with things neither of them knew how to name. Finally, Cross stood. Get some sleep, I'll keep watch. She didn't argue. She closed her eyes and let exhaustion pull her under. Morning came too fast. Elena woke to sunlight streaming through the gap in the curtains and the smell of bad coffee. Cross was sitting at the small table, laptop open, files spread around him like he'd been working all night. "You were supposed to sleep too," she said, her voice rough. "Couldn't." He didn't look up. "Found something, though." She got up, moving to stand behind him. The screen showed a series of financial transactions, dates highlighted in yellow. "What am I looking at?" "Payment records, routed through 3 shell companies, but they all trace back to the same source, a DoD discretionary fund that's supposed to be used for emergency operations. Let me guess. No emergencies match the dates." "Bingo!" Cross pulled up another file. "But here's the interesting part. One of the payments? Made 2 days before your unit was reassigned. Another one? 3 days before Lieutenant Klein died." Elena's stomach dropped. She'd known the deaths weren't accidents, but seeing it laid out in numbers and dates made it real in a way that memories couldn't. "How much?" she asked. "For Klein? 200,000. Someone paid 200 grand to kill her. To kill all of you. There are 6 more transactions over the next 4 months. Same amounts, same routing, different targets." Elena stepped back, pressing her palms against her eyes. Sarah Klein had been her friend. They'd gone through basic together, deployed together, saved each other's lives more times than she could count. And someone had paid to have her killed like she was a line item in a budget. "Can you trace who authorized the payments?" "Working on it. But whoever set this up knew what they were doing. Every layer I peel back, there's another one underneath." "Keep digging." Elena grabbed her jacket from the chair. "I'm going to check in with Reeves." She stepped outside. The morning air was cold, biting through the thin denim. The parking lot was still mostly empty, but a sedan had appeared near the far end. Dark blue, windows tinted. Elena tensed, her hand moving instinctively to her waistband where a weapon should be but wasn't. The driver's door opened. Reeves got out, carrying a duffel bag. Elena relaxed. Barely. "Jumpy," Reeves observed. "Practical." Reeves tossed her the bag. Elena caught it, feeling the weight. She unzipped it. Inside was a small microphone, no bigger than a shirt button, and a transmitter that could clip to a belt. Also a Glock 19, 2 spare magazines, and a knife. "The wire has a range of about half a mile," Reeves said. "I'll be in a van 2 blocks from the memorial. Anything goes wrong, I can be there in 90 seconds. "And the journalist? Her name's Monica Alvarez, investigative reporter for the Herald. She's broken 3 major corruption stories in the last 5 years, and she doesn't scare easy. I sent her the preliminary data last night. She's interested." "Interested enough to run with it if things go bad?" "Interested enough that she's already drafting the story." Reeves leaned against the car. "She'll be at the memorial tomorrow, covering the ribbon cutting. When you make contact with Finch, she'll be recording too. Backup in case your wire fails." Elena nodded, checking the Glock. "Full magazine. One in the chamber." "Did you reach out to Finch?" "Sent an anonymous tip through a burner account. Made it look like someone saw you near the memorial yesterday, acting nervous. Then I sent a follow-up from a different account, pretending to be you. Said you wanted to meet. Alone. 10 a.m. "And?" "He took the bait. Confirmed the meeting through a secure channel. He'll be there." Elena felt something settle in her chest. Not quite calm. More like the moment before a jump, when you've already committed, and there's nothing left to do but fall. "Good," she said. Reeves pushed off the car, studying her. "You know this could go a dozen different ways, right? He could bring a team, could have snipers on the rooftops, could just grab you the second you show your face." "I know. And you're doing it anyway." "I'm doing it because it's the only move I've got left." Elena zipped the bag. "You would have done the same thing." "Probably." Reeves smiled faintly. "Doesn't mean it's smart." They stood there for a moment, 2 women who'd seen too much and survived too long. Then Reeves clapped her on the shoulder. "Don't get yourself killed, Marsh. I didn't pull you out of that apartment just to watch you walk into a bullet." "I'll do my best." Reeves got back in the sedan and drove off, leaving Elena alone in the parking lot with a bag full of weapons and a plan that was either brilliant or suicidal. She wasn't sure which yet. The rest of the day crawled by. Elena and Cross went over the plan a dozen times, refining details, identifying weak points, running through contingencies. By the time the sun started setting, Elena's head was pounding and her nerves were stretched thin. Cross ordered Chinese takeout from a place down the road. They ate in silence, sitting on opposite sides of the small table, chopsticks clicking against cardboard containers. The food was greasy and oversalted, but Elena didn't taste it. She was too busy running scenarios in her head. "You should try to sleep again," Cross said, breaking the quiet. "Not tired. You're running on fumes and adrenaline. That's a good way to get sloppy." "I've operated on worse." "I'm sure you have, but tomorrow's not a combat zone. It's a negotiation. You need to be sharp, not running on instinct." He wasn't wrong, but Elena couldn't make her brain stop long enough to rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Klein's face, heard her voice, felt the heat of the explosion that had killed her. She stood abruptly, grabbing her jacket. "I'm going for a walk." "Elena." "I'll stay close, just need to clear my head." She was out the door before he could argue. The motel sat on the edge of a 2-lane highway, surrounded by fields and woods. No streetlights, no traffic. Just the sound of wind through the trees and the distant hum of insects. Elena walked along the shoulder, hands in her pockets, breath misting in the cold air. She thought about the mission in Syria, the one that had ended everything. The target had been a militia leader, someone with blood on his hands and more planned. Intelligence had said he'd be alone, but when they'd arrived, he'd been in a school, surrounded by kids. Elena's CO had called it in, asking for guidance. The order that came back was simple: proceed as planned. She'd refused. They all had, and for that, they'd been erased. She stopped walking, staring up at the sky. Stars scattered across the black, cold, and distant. Somewhere up there, Sarah Klein's name was supposed to be carved into a memorial wall. Honored, remembered. But the official records said she'd died in a training accident. No heroism, no sacrifice, just bad luck and human error. Elena pulled out her phone, turned it on, opened the message from Cross she'd deleted days ago. They're asking questions. About you. About what happened in Syria. She typed a response. Tomorrow, they get answers. She hit send. Then she turned the phone off and walked back to the motel. 10 o'clock came faster than Elena expected. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror, checking the wire one last time. The microphone was clipped to the inside of her shirt collar, invisible unless you knew where to look. The transmitter was tucked into her waistband, covered by her jacket. The Glock was in a shoulder holster, pressed against her ribs. Cross watched from the doorway. "You ready?" "As I'll ever be." He handed her an earpiece, small and flesh-colored. "I'll be listening. Anything feels wrong. You say the word, and we pull you out." "What's the word?" "Redwood." Elena fitted the earpiece into place. "Redwood, got it." She grabbed the duffel bag, now empty except for a water bottle and a burner phone. Walked to the door, stopped. "Cross." "Yeah?" "If this goes sideways, it won't. But if it does, then I make sure everyone knows what Finch did. I make sure Klein and the others get the recognition they deserve. And I make sure the people responsible burn for it." He met her eyes. "That's a promise." Elena nodded once. Then she walked out. Reeves was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against the van. She didn't say anything, just opened the back door. Elena climbed in. The interior was packed with monitoring equipment, screens showing multiple camera feeds, audio receivers, a laptop running encryption software. "We're live in 5, Reeves said, sliding into the driver's seat. "You've got eyes on you the whole time. Monica's already in position near the coffee shop. She'll look like just another reporter covering the event." Elena glanced at the screens. The Memorial Plaza was already filling up with people. A stage had been set up near the newly constructed wing, draped in red, white, and blue bunting. A podium with microphones. Rows of folding chairs. Security personnel in dark suits scanning the crowd. And there, near the fountain at the center of the plaza, stood Colonel Andrew Finch. He was in uniform, chest full of ribbons, posture rigid. He wasn't looking at the stage or the crowd. He was watching the entrances. Watching for her. Elena's pulse kicked up. "Let's move." The van pulled out, merging into morning traffic. They drove in silence, the city waking up around them. Office workers grabbing coffee. Construction crews setting up barriers. Tourists taking photos in front of buildings they'd forget by next week. Normal people living normal lives. Elena almost envied them. The van stopped 2 blocks from the memorial. Reeves turned in her seat. "Check in every 15 minutes. You miss one. I'm coming in. Understood. Elena got out, slinging the duffel over her shoulder. The plaza was visible from here, just past a row of food trucks and a small park where a man was walking his dog. She started walking. Her earpiece crackled. Cross's voice. I've got visual. You're clear to approach. She didn't respond, just kept walking. The plaza opened up in front of her, wide and bright in the morning sun. The stage was to her left, a politician she didn't recognize testing the microphone. The memorial itself was a black granite wall, names etched into its surface. Thousands of them, men and women who'd died in service. Sarah Klein's name should have been there. Elena scanned the crowd, looking for threats. 2 security guards near the stage, 3 more patrolling the perimeter. Finch still by the fountain, hands clasped behind his back. And there, near the coffee shop, a woman with a camera bag and a press credential hanging from her neck. Monica Alvarez. Elena walked toward the fountain. Finch saw her coming. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture, recognition, calculation. She stopped 10 feet away. Colonel Finch. Miss Marsh. His voice was calm, measured, the voice of a man who'd negotiated treaties and commanded battalions. I wasn't sure you'd actually come. Here I am. Yes, here you are. He glanced around, taking in the crowd, the cameras, the civilians. Public place, smart, makes it harder for me to do anything. Unpleasant. That was the idea. Finch smiled, a thin, humorless expression. You've caused quite a bit of trouble, you know. Federal agents chasing shadows, resources wasted. All because you decided to run instead of having a simple conversation. I wasn't interested in the kind of conversation you were offering. And what kind was that? The kind that ends with me disappearing. He tilted his head, studying her. You think very little of me. I think you're the man who buried my unit, who paid to have my friends killed, who erased us from history because we didn't follow an illegal order. Finch's smile faded. Careful, Ms. Marsh. Accusations like that require proof. I have proof. Do you? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Because from where I'm standing, you're a disgraced former operative with a history of insubordination. No one will believe you, and even if they did, the files are sealed, classified, untouchable. Not anymore. That got his attention. His eyes narrowed. What did you do? I made copies, sent them to people you can't threaten or buy off. Journalists, congressional oversight committees, lawyers who specialize in whistleblower cases. She paused. And if anything happens to me, they go public. Finch was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. You're bluffing. Am I? Yes. Because if you had that kind of leverage, you wouldn't be here. You'd be somewhere safe, letting the story play out. But you're not. You're standing in front of me, trying to convince me you're dangerous. He leaned in. You're desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. Elena held his gaze. You're right. I am desperate. Desperate enough to do whatever it takes to make sure the truth comes out. Desperate enough that I don't care what happens to me as long as you go down with me. Finch straightened. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. What do you want? I want the records unsealed. I want the families notified. I want the people responsible held accountable. That's not going to happen. Then I guess we're done here. She turned to walk away. Wait. She stopped. Finch's jaw was tight, his hands clenched. You don't understand what you're asking. The mission in Syria, it was part of something bigger. Unsealing those records would expose operations that are still active. It would compromise assets, get people killed. People are already dead, my people. Collateral damage. Elena turned back, her voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. Say that again. Finch met her eyes. They knew the risks when they signed up. We all do. Sometimes the mission requires sacrifice. They didn't die for the mission. They died because you were covering your ass. I was following orders. So were the Nazis. Finch's face flushed. You have no idea what you're talking about. Then explain it to me. Explain why Sarah Klein had to die. Explain why 6 other members of my unit are buried under lies. Explain why you're so afraid of the truth that you're willing to threaten me in broad daylight. I'm not threatening you. Yes, you are. You sent agents to my apartment, froze my accounts, tried to make me disappear. And when that didn't work, you came here hoping to intimidate me into silence. She stepped closer. But here's what you don't understand, Colonel. I've been silent for 8 years. I'm done being quiet. Finch stared at her, his breathing shallow. Then he did something Elena didn't expect. He smiled. You're recording this, aren't you? Her blood went cold. The wire under your jacket, the earpiece, the fact that you chose a public place with cameras. He glanced toward the coffee shop, toward Monica. You think you're clever, think you've got me cornered. Elena didn't move. Finch pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. The problem with wires, Ms. Marsh, is that they're traceable. And the problem with journalists is that they're predictable. From across the plaza, 2 men in suits started walking toward Monica. She saw them coming, tried to back away. One of them grabbed her arm. No! Elena started moving, but Finch blocked her path. I wouldn't, he said quietly. You make a scene, those men will arrest her for interfering with a federal investigation. Her footage will be confiscated, her story killed, and you'll be next. Elena's heart was pounding. In her ear, Cross's voice. Elena, what's happening? She couldn't answer, couldn't speak without giving away the earpiece. Finch leaned in close. You're not the only one who can play chess, Ms. Marsh, and you just walked into checkmate. Elena's mind raced. The wire was compromised. Monica was being detained. The whole plan was falling apart. And then, from the stage, someone screamed. Everyone turned. The politician at the podium had collapsed, clutching his chest. Security rushed forward. The crowd surged, panic spreading like wildfire. In the chaos, Elena saw her chance. She drove her elbow into Finch's stomach, doubling him over, ripped the wire from her collar, and threw it into the fountain. Then she ran. Behind her, Finch shouted orders. Security personnel changed direction, chasing her instead of helping the man on stage. Elena dodged through the crowd, using the panic as cover. She could hear boots pounding pavement, voices yelling, but she didn't look back. She hit the edge of the plaza and kept running. Her earpiece crackled, Reeves's voice, sharp and urgent. What the hell just happened? Plans blown. Finch knew. He grabbed Monica. Where are you? Heading east. He's got people on me. I'm coming to you. Stay on the line. Elena cut through an alley, vaulting a dumpster. Behind her, footsteps echoed. She risked a glance back. 2 men, both armed, closing fast. She burst out onto a side street, nearly colliding with a delivery truck. The driver laid on the horn. Elena kept running. Ahead, she saw the van. Reeves at the wheel, passenger door already open. Elena put on a final burst of speed, diving into the seat. Reeves hit the gas before the door was even closed. Gunfire cracked behind them. The van's back window shattered. Get down! Reeves swerved, taking a hard left. Elena ducked, glass raining down on her. More shots. The van's side mirror exploded. Reeves cursed, flooring it. They blew through a red light, tires screaming. The pursuing vehicle, a black SUV, stayed on their tail. They're not backing off, Elena said. I noticed. Reeves yanked the wheel right, cutting through a parking garage entrance. The SUV followed. They spiraled up the levels, engines roaring. On the 3rd floor, Reeves slammed the brakes. The van skidded sideways, blocking the ramp. She threw it in reverse, backing toward the opposite exit. The SUV tried to follow. Got stuck. Reeves shifted into drive and punched it, shooting down the exit ramp. They hit street level doing 60, merged into traffic, and disappeared. Elena sat up, breathing hard. That was too close. Yeah. Reeves checked the mirrors. We need to dump this van. They'll have the plates by now. Where's Cross? Still at the motel. I'll call him. She pulled out her phone, but before she could dial, it rang. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. Yeah? Sergeant Reeves, Finch's voice filled the van. I believe you have something of mine. Reeves's knuckles went white on the wheel. And you have something of mine. Ms. Alvarez is fine, for now. She's being held on charges of interfering with a federal operation. Those charges could become much more serious, or they could disappear entirely. What do you want? Elena Marsh, in exchange for the journalist, and all copies of the files you stole. Elena grabbed the phone. You're insane if you think I'm... You have 2 hours, Finch interrupted. After that, Ms. Alvarez will be transferred to a federal detention facility. And once she's in the system, I can't help her. Even if I wanted to. The line went dead. Elena and Reeves stared at each other. He's lying, Elena said. He'll kill Monica the second he gets what he wants. Probably. Reeves took a corner too fast, tires squealing. But if we don't show up, he'll definitely kill her. So we're walking into another trap. Looks like. Elena leaned her head back against the seat. 2 hours. She had 2 hours to figure out how to save Monica, stop Finch, and not get herself killed in the process. She pulled out the burner phone. Dialed Cross. He answered immediately. Are you okay? For now. But we've got a problem. She explained everything. The confrontation. The chase. Monica's capture. Finch's ultimatum. Cross was silent for a long moment. Then, I'm sending you coordinates. Meet me there in 90 minutes. What are you? Just trust me. The line went dead. Elena looked at Reeves. You get that? Yeah. Reeves's jaw was set. Whatever he's planning, it better be good. They drove in silence, leaving the city behind. Elena watched the buildings thin out, replaced by warehouses and industrial parks. Her phone buzzed. Coordinates from Cross. An abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. Elena had a bad feeling about this, but bad feelings were all she had left to work with. They pulled up to the factory 40 minutes later. The building was massive, windows broken, walls covered in graffiti. Cross's car was parked near a side entrance. They found him inside in what used to be the main production floor, concrete and rust and broken machinery. He wasn't alone. 4 people stood with him, 2 men, 2 women, all in tactical gear, all armed. Elena stopped. Who are they? Cross turned. People who owe you. People you saved. People who've been waiting 8 years for a chance to return the favor. One of the women stepped forward. Dark skin, braided hair, a scar running down her left arm. Elena recognized her immediately. Martinez? Staff Sergeant Lisa Martinez grinned. Hey, Marsh, long time. Elena couldn't breathe. Martinez had been on the convoy in Syria. She'd been thrown clear of the explosion, just like Elena. She'd survived. And judging by the look in her eyes, she'd spent the last 8 years angry about what came after. How did you? Cross found us, Martinez said. Sent out a message through old channels, said you needed backup. We came. The other 3 introduced themselves. All former members of the unit. All supposedly dead. All very much alive. Elena looked at Cross. You did this. You said you needed leverage. He gestured to the group. Here it is. Witnesses. People who were there. People who can corroborate your story. Reeves whistled low. This changes things. Yeah. Elena's mind was racing. Finch thought she was alone, thought she was desperate and cornered, but now she had a team. Now she had options. She turned to the group. Finch has a journalist. He's using her to force me into a trade, me and the files for her life. So we go get her, Martinez said simply. It's not that easy. He'll have security, probably a dozen men, maybe more. We faced worse odds. Not in 8 years, and not without official support. Martinez's expression hardened. Then it's a good thing we're not official anymore. The others nodded, grim, determined, ready. Elena felt something shift inside her. For 8 years she'd been alone, running, hiding, trying to survive. But she wasn't alone anymore. She looked at Cross. Where's Finch holding her? He pulled up a map on his laptop. Based on chatter I intercepted, they've got her at a private security facility about 20 miles from here. Used to be a police training center. Now it's contracted out for federal use. Defenses? 2 guard posts. Cameras on all entrances. Patrol schedule rotates every 4 hours. Elena studied the map. It wasn't impossible, but it would be close. She checked her watch. 1 hour left. All right, she said. Here's what we're going to do. Martinez was already checking her rifle, muscle memory kicking in like she'd never stopped. How many guards at the front? Cross zoomed in on the satellite image. 2 visible. Probably more inside. Cameras? 4 on the perimeter, 2 at the main entrance. None on the east side. There's a blind spot near the old vehicle bay. Elena studied the layout, her mind running calculations. The facility was a single-story structure, L-shaped, with reinforced doors and barred windows. Not a fortress, but not soft either. Getting in would be hard. Getting Monica out without casualties would be harder. "We go in quiet," she said. "No guns unless absolutely necessary. We're not here to start a war." One of the men, Garcia, former combat engineer, shook his head. "They took one of ours. Why are we playing nice?" "Because the second we open fire, this becomes a federal incident. They'll bury us in Monica, and Finch walks away clean." Elena met his eyes. "We do this smart, or we don't do it at all." Garcia didn't look happy, but he nodded. Reeves pulled a tablet from her bag, syncing it with Cross's laptop. "I can loop the camera feeds. Give you a 10-minute window before anyone notices the glitch." "That enough time?" Martinez asked. Elena checked her watch again. 52 minutes. "It'll have to be." They loaded into 2 vehicles, Reeves's van and a pickup truck one of the others had driven. Elena rode with Martinez and Garcia. The silence in the truck was thick, everyone lost in their own thoughts. Elena stared out the window, watching the landscape blur past. 8 years ago, these people had been her family, her unit. And then they'd been scattered, erased, buried under lies. Now they were back, risking everything for a journalist they'd never met, and a fight that should have been over years ago. She wondered if any of them blamed her, if they resented the fact that her refusal to follow orders had cost them their lives, the official versions anyway. But when she glanced at Martinez, the other woman just gave her a tight smile. "Stop overthinking it," Martinez said. "I'm not—" "Yes, you are. I can see it on your face." Martinez shifted in her seat, adjusting the tactical vest she'd pulled on. "We all made the same choice that day. You didn't force us. We stood with you because it was right. And look where it got you." Still breathing, still fighting. Could be worse. Garcia grunted agreement from the driver's seat. Could be dead for real, like Klein. The name hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Elena looked away. "Yeah, could be worse." They arrived at the facility with 40 minutes left. The building sat at the end of a gravel access road, surrounded by empty fields and chain-link fence topped with razor wire. A faded sign near the entrance read, "Private property, no trespassing." 2 guards stood near the gate, both armed, both looking bored. The vehicles parked half a mile down the road, hidden behind an abandoned barn. Elena climbed out, pulling on the tactical vest Reeves handed her. It felt familiar and wrong at the same time, like putting on a uniform she'd been discharged from wearing. Cross distributed earpieces. "Everyone stays on comms. Reeves will coordinate from here. You've got eyes and ears, but if something goes wrong, extraction is 15 minutes minimum." 15 minutes is a lifetime in a firefight, Garcia muttered. "Then don't get in a firefight." Elena checked her Glock one last time, then holstered it. She looked at the team, Martinez, Garcia, the 2 others whose names were Thompson and Valdez, all of them watching her, waiting. "We split into 2 groups," she said. "Martinez, Garcia, you're with me. We go in through the blind spot on the east side. Thompson, Valdez, you create a diversion at the west fence. Nothing loud, just enough to pull attention away from our entry point." Thompson nodded. "How long do you need?" 5 minutes to get inside, another 5 to locate Monica and get her clear. "And if she's not where Cross thinks she is?" "Then we adapt." Elena's voice was steady, but her pulse was hammering. "We've done this before, we can do it again." They moved out, splitting up as planned. Elena led her group through the field, staying low, using the tall grass as cover. The sun was high now, beating down, turning the vest into an oven. Sweat dripped into her eyes. She blinked it away, focusing on the building ahead. In her ear, Reeves's voice, "Camera loop active. You've got 9 minutes starting now." "Copy." They reached the fence. Garcia pulled wire cutters from his pack, snipping through the chain link in quick, precise movements. The metal gave way with soft pings. Elena slipped through first, Martinez and Garcia right behind her. The east wall had no windows, just a service door with a keycard reader. Elena pulled a bypass tool from her pocket, something Reeves had slipped into her vest, and pressed it against the reader. The light blinked from red to green. The door opened. Inside was a narrow hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Concrete walls painted institutional beige, the smell of cleaning chemicals and stale coffee. Elena moved forward, Glock drawn now, sweeping corners. Martinez covered the rear. Garcia stayed middle, watching for interior cameras. First door on the right, Cross said through the earpiece. Should be a security station. One guard, maybe two. Elena approached the door, pressing her ear against it. Voices inside. Two men. One complaining about the vending machine being out of order, the other laughing. She tested the handle. Unlocked. She looked back at Martinez, who nodded. Elena pushed the door open fast. The two guards spun, hands moving toward weapons. Elena was faster. She closed the distance, driving her shoulder into the first guard's chest, slamming him against the wall. His head cracked against concrete. He dropped. Martinez took the second guard. A quick jab to the throat, followed by a knee to the stomach. He went down gasping. Garcia zip-tied their wrists and ankles, then gagged them with duct tape. The whole thing took less than 15 seconds. Elena scanned the security monitors on the desk. Multiple camera feeds showing different parts of the facility. She spotted Monica in one of them, a small holding room, sitting in a plastic chair, hands cuffed in front of her. Two guards outside the door. Found her, Elena said. Second floor, north wing. There is no second floor, Cross said. Elena looked closer at the feed. He was right. The room had no windows, but the ceiling was the same height as the hallway they were in. Basement then. Where are the stairs? No basement on the schematics. Then the schematics are wrong. Elena pointed at the screen. Look at the background. Exposed pipes, concrete ceiling. She's underground. Garcia leaned over, studying the monitor. Service tunnel. Old facilities like this always have them. Maintenance access, usually. Where would the entrance be? Boiler room, utility closet, somewhere staff doesn't go often. Reeves cut in. 6 minutes left on the loop. Elena cursed under her breath. Thompson, Valdez, status? In position. Ready to go loud on your mark. Stand by. Elena turned to Martinez. We need to find that tunnel. Fast. They left the security room, moving deeper into the building. The hallway branched into a T intersection. Elena went right, pushing through a door marked Maintenance. Inside was a cramped space filled with circuit breakers and old equipment, and in the far corner, half hidden behind a rusted water heater, was a metal hatch set into the floor. Got it. Garcia pulled the hatch open. A ladder descended into darkness. The smell of damp earth and mold wafted up. Elena went first, climbing down into the tunnel. The walls were narrow, barely wide enough for two people to walk side by side. Exposed pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping condensation. The floor was uneven concrete, cracked and pitted. Martinez and Garcia followed. They moved quickly, following the tunnel as it curved. Somewhere ahead, Elena heard voices. She held up a fist. Everyone stopped. Two guards. Both standing outside a door at the end of the tunnel. One was smoking, the other checking his phone. Elena signaled Martinez. The plan was simple. Take them down quietly, get Monica, get out. But as they started forward, the guard with the phone looked up. His eyes went wide. Hey! Elena was already moving. She closed the distance in 3 strides, her hand clamping over his mouth as she drove him backward into the wall. His phone clattered to the ground. The other guard dropped his cigarette, reaching for his weapon. Martinez hit him from the side, a brutal takedown that left him face down on the concrete. She pressed a knee into his back, wrenching his arm up until he stopped struggling. Elena zip-tied her guard, then grabbed the keys from his belt. She unlocked the door. Monica was on her feet the second the door opened, eyes wide, camera bag still clutched in her hands. Who? We're leaving, now. Where's? Questions later. Move. They ran back through the tunnel, boots splashing through puddles. Behind them, one of the guards had worked his gag loose and was shouting. Alarms started blaring. So much for quiet, Garcia muttered. In Elena's ear, Reeves. Building's going into lockdown. You've got maybe 2 minutes before they seal the exits. Elena pushed harder, lungs burning. They reached the ladder. Monica went up first, then Martinez. Elena was halfway up when gunfire erupted above. She dropped back down, pulling her Glock. Garcia was already returning fire, keeping the shooters pinned. Elena couldn't see how many there were, but the muzzle flashes told her at least 3. Thompson, now! Elena shouted into her mic. Seconds later, an explosion rocked the building. Not close, but loud enough to rattle the pipes overhead. The gunfire stopped as the shooters redirected their attention. Elena climbed fast, emerging into chaos. Smoke filled the hallway, people shouting, more gunfire from somewhere else in the building. Martinez had Monica behind cover, shielding her with her body. Garcia was laying down, suppressing fire, forcing the guards back. "East exit's blocked," Martinez yelled over the noise. "We need another way out." Elena scanned the hallway, saw a window at the far end, barred but not reinforced. "There." They moved together, a tight unit, covering each other as they advanced. Garcia reached the window first, smashing the glass with his rifle butt. He grabbed the bars and pulled. They didn't budge. "Welded," he said. "Explosive charge?" Martinez suggested. "Too close. We'd take shrapnel." More guards were coming. Elena could hear boots pounding down an adjacent corridor. They had seconds. She made a decision. "Fall back to the security room. We barricade. Call for extraction." "That's a kill box," Garcia said. "You got a better idea?" He didn't. They retreated, dragging Monica with them. The security room door was reinforced steel. They slammed it shut, through the lock. Elena shoved a desk in front of it for good measure. Martinez checked the monitors. "We've got at least 8 hostiles converging on this position." "Reeves, we need that extraction now," Elena said. "On the way. 4 minutes." 4 minutes. Elena looked around the room. One door, no windows. A vent in the ceiling too small to crawl through. They were trapped. Garcia started stacking furniture against the door. Martinez distributed ammunition. Monica sat against the wall, breathing hard, mascara smudged from sweat and tears. "I'm sorry," Monica said. "This is my fault. I shouldn't have—" "Save it," Elena said, not unkindly. "You did your job. We're doing ours." The door shuddered. Someone was trying to force it open. Then a voice from outside, amplified by a megaphone. "This is Colonel Finch. You're surrounded. Come out now and no one else gets hurt." Elena moved to the door, pressing her face near the crack. "You know I'm not doing that. Then you're going to die in there." "Maybe. But the files still go public. Monica's story still gets told, and you still lose." Silence. Then Finch again, his voice colder. "You think this is about winning? This is about order, about protecting operations that keep this country safe. Your self-righteous crusade is going to get people killed. People are already dead, my people, and you're the one who killed them. I followed orders, just like you were supposed to. Those orders were illegal. That's not for you to decide." The door shook again, harder this time. Wood splintered around the frame. Martinez raised her rifle. "They're coming through." Elena's mind raced. 4 minutes was too long. They needed something now. She looked at the monitors, searching for options, and then she saw it. A fire suppression system, sprinklers in every room, and a manual override panel right here in the security station. She pulled the panel open. Inside were rows of switches and a large red lever marked Emergency Activation. "Everyone get low," she said. "What are you—" Elena pulled the lever. Instantly, alarms shrieked. Sprinklers erupted throughout the building, water flooding the hallways. On the monitors, she watched guards scramble, slipping on wet floors, losing their footing. The pounding on the door stopped. Garcia laughed despite himself. "That's actually brilliant. It buys us maybe 30 seconds. Make them count." The water was seeping under the door now, pooling around their feet. Elena checked the monitors again. The east exit was still blocked, but the west side, where Thompson and Valdez had set the diversion, looked clear. "New plan. We go out the west exit. Thompson, Valdez, you still there?" "Affirmative. But you've got company between you and us." "How many?" "4, maybe 5. Elena looked at her team, soaked, exhausted, running on adrenaline and stubbornness. "We fight through. No other option." Martinez chambered around. "Been ready?" They moved the furniture away from the door. Elena counted down. 3, 2, 1. Garcia kicked the door open. Water cascaded out into the hallway. The guards outside were drenched, disoriented. Elena fired twice, aiming low, hitting legs. They went down screaming. The team pushed forward, moving fast through ankle-deep water. The sprinklers were still going full blast, turning the entire facility into a waterlogged maze. Visibility was terrible. Every corner was a gamble. They rounded a bend and walked straight into 3 more guards. No time to think. Elena ducked a swing, drove her elbow into a throat. Martinez dropped another with a precise shot to the shoulder. Garcia tackled the third, slamming him into a wall hard enough to crack plaster. Monica was keeping up, barely, her camera bag clutched like a lifeline. How much farther? Almost there. They burst into a large open space, some kind of training area with gym equipment and floor mats. The west exit was visible on the far side, daylight streaming through. Freedom was 50 feet away. Then Colonel Finch stepped out from behind a support column flanked by 4 armed guards. Everyone stopped. Finch looked at Elena, water dripping from his uniform, his expression unreadable. You're persistent. I'll give you that. Elena raised her Glock, but so did the 4 guards, their weapons trained on her team. Mexican standoff. Let us walk, Elena said. You've lost, Finch. The files are already out. Monica has the story. Shooting us just makes you a murderer on top of everything else. You think I care about optics at this point? Finch's voice was tired. I've spent 25 years protecting this country, making the hard choices no one else wants to make. And you're going to tear it all down because you couldn't follow one order. That order would have killed children. That order would have prevented an attack that killed 300 people 2 months later, 300 lives for 20. You did the math wrong, Marsh. Elena felt the words hit like a punch. She'd never known about the attack, never been told there was a consequence to her refusal. You're lying. I wish I was. Finch lowered his weapon slightly. The target you refused to eliminate? He coordinated a bombing in Ankara, a marketplace. Families, children, the same ones you thought you were protecting. Elena's hand wavered. That's not... Check the records. November 14th, 2017. Ankara marketplace bombing. 32 children under the age of 10. Finch's eyes were hard. That's on you. Martinez spoke up. Even if that's true, you still erased us, killed our friends, buried the truth. Because the truth would have destroyed everything we were trying to build, would have exposed operations across 3 continents, would have gotten more people killed. So you decided to play executioner. I decided to do what was necessary. The standoff held for another few seconds. Then from outside, the sound of helicopter rotors, loud, getting closer. Finch smiled. That's not your extraction. Elena's stomach dropped. Through the exit, she could see black helicopters descending. Military grade, Finch's reinforcements. Last chance, Finch said. Surrender now. Face trial. Maybe you'll get leniency. Elena looked at her team, at Monica. At the 50 feet between them and the exit that was about to be flooded with soldiers, she made eye contact with Martinez. No words needed. They'd been here before, outnumbered, outgunned, out of options. Martinez nodded fractionally. Elena lowered her weapon. Okay, we surrender. Finch exhaled, something like relief crossing his face. Smart choice. The guards moved forward, weapons still raised. One reached for Elena's Glock. She let him take it, and then the entire building went dark. The backup generator kicked in a second later, but that second was enough. In the chaos, Elena moved. She grabbed the guard's wrist, twisted hard, heard bone snap. His weapon clattered to the wet floor. She scooped it up, firing twice into the ceiling. The sprinklers finally died, the water supply exhausted. Martinez and Garcia were already engaging, using the confusion. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness like strobe lights. Monica hit the deck, covering her head. Elena couldn't see Finch anymore, couldn't see anything clearly. She just kept moving, trusting muscle memory and instinct. Someone grabbed her from behind. She drove her head backward, felt cartilage crunch. The grip loosened. West exit, now! She screamed. They ran, blind, desperate, bullets chewing up concrete behind them. Elena hit the door at full speed, shoulder first. It burst open. Daylight blinded her. And standing right there, blocking the exit, was a full squad of soldiers in tactical gear, rifles aimed. Elena froze. Behind her, her team skidded to a stop. In front of her, the soldiers didn't move, didn't speak. Then one of them lowered his weapon, stepped forward, pulled off his helmet. Elena's breath caught. Commander Daniel Cross. He was in full uniform, rank insignia visible, flanked by a platoon of Marines, and behind them, more vehicles, more soldiers. An entire detachment. Cross looked past Elena to Finch, who'd emerged from the building, bloodied and furious. "Colonel Finch," Cross said, his voice carrying authority Elena had never heard from him before. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, murder, and violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice." Finch stared. "You have no authority." "Actually, I do." Cross pulled a document from his vest. "As of 3 hours ago, I've been reinstated as the lead investigator for NCIS Task Force 7. Your activities have been under federal review for the past month. Everything Elena uncovered, we confirmed it. Every transaction, every payment, every name." Finch's face went white. Cross continued. "Your men stand down now, or they face the same charges you do." The guards looked at each other. Slowly, they lowered their weapons. Marines moved in, zip-tying Finch's wrists. He didn't resist, just stared at Elena like he was seeing her for the first time. "You planned this," he said quietly. "All of it." Elena shook her head. "No, I just refused to give up." Cross approached her, offering a hand. She took it, letting him pull her to her feet. "You okay?" "Been better, but yeah," he smiled. "Your story checked out, every detail. We found the payment records, the mission files, everything. And when we started digging, we found 6 other operations just like yours, all buried, all illegal. How did you get authorization to move this fast?" "I didn't wait for authorization. I brought the evidence to someone who outranks everyone in this mess, someone who's been looking for a reason to clean house." A black sedan pulled up. The door opened. A woman stepped out, older, silver hair, wearing a civilian suit but carrying herself like military brass. Cross stood at attention. "Senator?" The woman nodded to him, then looked at Elena. "Ms. Marsh, I'm Senator Patricia Calhoun, chair of the Armed Services Committee. I've been reading about you." Elena didn't know what to say. Senator Calhoun continued. "What was done to you and your unit was unconscionable. I want you to know that this goes all the way to the top. We're opening a full investigation. Everyone involved will be held accountable." "What about the families, the people who died thinking their loved ones were forgotten?" "They'll be notified, properly, with honors." The senator's expression softened. "It's not enough. Nothing will be. But it's a start." Elena felt something break inside her. 8 years of anger, of grief, of fighting alone. And now it was over. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but over. Martinez put a hand on her shoulder. "We did it." "Yeah," Elena said, her voice thick. "We did." Monica appeared beside them, camera in hand, already recording. "Ms. Marsh, can I get a statement?" Elena almost laughed. "Now? The world needs to hear this, from you." Elena looked at the camera, at the soldiers hauling Finch away, at Cross standing there like he'd just won the war, at her team, alive and free. She took a breath. "My name is Elena Marsh. 8 years ago, I was erased for refusing an illegal order. Today, the truth comes out. And everyone who tried to bury it, they're going to answer for it." Monica smiled. "Perfect. Hope." 6 hours later, Elena sat in a hotel room watching the news. Monica's story was already breaking. Every network, every website, the footage from the facility, the documents Cross had provided, the interviews with surviving unit members. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Yeah?" "Miss Marsh, this is Dr. Voss from Riverside General." Elena tensed. "What do you want?" "I want to apologize. I saw the news. I had no idea who you were, what you'd done. You suspended me for saving a life." "I know. And I was wrong. I'm calling to offer you your position back, with a promotion and a formal commendation." Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Keep the job. I'm done being underestimated." She hung up. There was a knock at the door. She opened it. Cross stood there, out of uniform now, looking exhausted but relieved. "Thought you might want company," he said. "Yeah, come in." They sat together watching the news coverage. Finch being led away in handcuffs. The senator announcing the investigation. Martinez giving an interview, fierce and unbroken. "What happens now?" Cross asked. "I don't know," Elena admitted. "For 8 years, all I've done is survive. I don't know what comes after. Maybe you figure it out as you go. Maybe. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Reeves. Turn on channel 7. Elena switched channels. A press conference, the Pentagon, a spokesperson at the podium. In light of recent revelations, the Department of Defense is announcing the formation of a new oversight task force dedicated to reviewing covert operations. Leading that task force will be Commander Daniel Cross and former Staff Sergeant Elena Marsh, who will be reinstated at the rank of captain effective immediately. Elena stared at the screen. Cross looked at her. I might have forgotten to mention that part. You what? The senator wanted you back. Official capacity. Full authority to investigate and prosecute cases like yours. He paused. I told her you'd say yes. You had no right. I know. But I also know you. You're not done fighting, and now you don't have to do it alone. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she was tired, that she'd earned her peace. But the truth was, he was right. She wasn't done. There were more operations like hers, more people buried under lies, more truth waiting to come out. She looked at Cross. What's the catch? No catch. Just the hardest job you'll ever have. Elena smiled despite herself. When do I start? Tomorrow, if you're ready. She thought about it, about everything she'd lost, everything she'd fought for, everything she'd become. Yeah, she said. I'm ready. The next morning, Elena stood in front of the Pentagon, wearing a uniform she hadn't touched in 8 years. The stars and stripes hung above the entrance, snapping in the wind. People walked past her, officers, civilians, staffers, none of them knowing who she was or what she'd done. That would change. Cross appeared beside her. You coming? Yeah, just taking a moment. They walked in together, through security, past corridors lined with photos of decorated officers and historical battles, into an elevator that took them deep underground. The doors opened into a secure operations center. Screens covered the walls, showing maps and data feeds. A dozen analysts worked at stations, headsets on, fingers flying across keyboards. Senator Calhoun was waiting. Captain Marsh, Commander Cross. Welcome. Elena took it all in. The technology, the resources, the team. This is yours, the senator said. Full operational authority. You report directly to me. Your mission is simple. Find the buried operations. Expose them. Hold people accountable. How many are there? Elena asked. We've identified 17 so far, but we think there are more, maybe dozens. Elena felt the weight of it settle on her shoulders. 17 operations, hundreds of lives, years of work. But she wasn't alone anymore. She looked at Cross, at Martinez, who'd just walked in with Thompson and Valdez, at the team assembling around her. Where do we start? Elena asked. Senator Calhoun pulled up a file on the main screen. A photograph. A man in uniform. A name Elena didn't recognize. This is General Marcus Hale, 4-star, Deputy Chief of Staff. We have reason to believe he's been running an off-books operation in Eastern Europe for the past 6 years. Illegal renditions. Black site prisons. We need proof. Elena studied the photo. The general looked distinguished, decorated, untouchable, good. She was getting tired of easy targets. How long do we have? He's set to testify before Congress in 3 weeks. If we don't have evidence by then, he walks. 3 weeks. To infiltrate a 4-star general's operation. To find proof of crimes that didn't officially exist. Elena smiled. Then we'd better get started. The screens flickered. Data began streaming. Names, locations, transaction records. And somewhere in that flood of information was the truth, waiting to be found, waiting to be exposed. Elena Marsh had spent 8 years running from shadows. Now she was about to drag them all into the light, but as she turned to address her team, her phone buzzed one more time. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number, a single message. You should have stayed buried. Now you're going to wish you had. The message deleted itself. Elena's blood ran cold. She looked around the operations center, suddenly aware of how exposed they were. How many people had access to this facility? How many loyalties were still unknown? Cross noticed her expression. What's wrong? She showed him the phone, the blank screen where the message had been. His face hardened. Someone inside? Has to be. No one else would know I'm here. Around them, the team continued working, oblivious. Analysts at their stations, Marines guarding the exits, Senator Calhoun reviewing files. Any one of them could be compromised. Elena's hand moved to her sidearm instinctively. Cross did the same. And then, across the operations center, one of the screens went black. Then another. Then all of them. The lights flickered. Someone screamed. When the lights came back on, Senator Calhoun was on the floor, blood pooling beneath her. Elena dropped to her knees beside the senator, hands already moving to apply pressure to the wound. Entry point just below the ribcage, angled upward. Blood was spreading fast, too fast, soaking through Calhoun's blouse and pooling on the polished floor. "Medic!" Cross was already on his radio, voice sharp and controlled. "Lockdown protocol. No one in or out." The operations center erupted into chaos. Marines rushed toward the exits, sealing doors. Analysts dove under desks. Martinez had her weapon drawn, sweeping the room for threats. Elena pressed harder on the wound. The senator's eyes were open, unfocused, her breathing shallow and rapid. "Stay with me. Help's coming." Calhoun's hand gripped Elena's wrist weakly. Her lips moved, forming words Elena had to lean down to hear. "Inside. Someone inside. I know. Don't talk. Save your strength. Hale, not alone." The senator coughed, blood flecking her lips. "Bigger than we thought." A medical team burst through the side entrance, hauling a stretcher and emergency equipment. Elena stepped back, letting them work. They moved with practiced efficiency. Pressure bandages, IV lines, oxygen mask. Within seconds, they had Calhoun stabilized enough to move. "Where's the nearest trauma center?" one of the medics shouted. "Walter Reed, 15 minutes, Cross said. "She doesn't have 15 minutes. Then drive faster." They rushed the senator out. Elena stood there, hands covered in blood that wasn't hers, watching the door swing shut. Around her, the operations center was locked down tight. Every exit guarded. Every person accounted for. Except whoever had pulled the trigger. Martinez appeared at her side. "No gunshot. No noise. I was watching the whole room." "Suppressed weapon," Elena said. "Had to be. Close range, probably concealed." "That means the shooter's still here." Elena's eyes swept the room. 30 people, maybe more. Analysts, Marines, support staff. Any one of them could be compromised. Any one of them could be the threat. Cross approached, his expression grim. "Security footage is corrupted. Same time the screens went black, the cameras looped. We've got nothing." "Convenient," Elena muttered. She looked at her bloodied hands, then at Cross. "Calhoun said Hale wasn't alone. Said this was bigger than we thought." "How much bigger?" "Big enough that someone just tried to kill a sitting senator inside the Pentagon." Elena's voice was tight. "We're not dealing with one rogue general. This is a network." "Then we shut it down." "With what? Our team just got cut in half. We don't know who we can trust. And the one person with the authority to back us up is bleeding out in an ambulance." Cross stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You want to quit?" Elena met his eyes. "I want to survive long enough to finish this. Then we move fast, before they can regroup." Martinez interrupted. "We've got a problem. Building security is demanding full access. They want to interview everyone, confiscate all devices, shut down the operation until the investigation is complete." "That'll take weeks," Elena said. "By the time they clear us, Hale and whoever he's working with will be gone." "So what do we do?" Elena thought fast. The shooter was still in the building. That meant they were trapped too. And trapped people made mistakes. "We give them what they want," she said. "Full cooperation. Hand over devices. Submit to interviews. But we keep one person off the books, someone they don't know about." Cross frowned. "Who?" "Monica, the journalist. She's not military, not official. As far as building security knows, she's just a reporter who covered the story." Elena pulled out her phone, the burner Reeves had given her, not the official one they'd confiscate. "We get her access to everything we've pulled on Hale. If we go dark, she runs with it anyway." "That's a hell of a risk. You got a better play?" He didn't. Elena dialed Monica's number. It rang 4 times before she answered. "Elena, I heard what happened. Is the senator still alive?" "Barely. Elena kept her voice low, moving toward a corner away from the guards converging on the center. I need you to do something for me. Something that could get you killed. Monica didn't hesitate. Tell me. There's a server room 2 floors down. You'll need credentials to access it. I'm sending you a keycard number and a passcode. Inside you'll find a terminal labeled November 7. Copy everything on it, every file, every transaction. What am I looking for? Evidence of a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top. Names, dates, operations. If we get taken out, you're the only one left to expose it. Jesus, Elena. Can you do it or not? Silence. Then, yeah, I can do it. Elena texted her the credentials. You've got maybe 20 minutes before security locks down that area too. After that, the data gets wiped. I'm already moving. The line went dead. Cross was watching her. If this goes wrong, everything's already wrong. This is just damage control. A Marine lieutenant approached, flanked by 2 MPs. Captain Marsh, Commander Cross, I'm going to need you both to come with me. We're in the middle of an active investigation, Cross said, which is now suspended pending security review. You'll be debriefed separately, and all your equipment will be held as evidence. Elena could see there was no point arguing. She held out her official phone and sidearm. Cross did the same. The MPs took them, logging each item with cold efficiency. This way, the lieutenant said. They were separated immediately. Elena was led down a series of corridors to a small windowless room with a table, 2 chairs, and a camera mounted in the corner. Standard interrogation setup. She sat down and waited. The door opened 10 minutes later. A man walked in, mid-40s, wearing a suit that screamed federal investigator. He carried a tablet and a recording device. Captain Marsh, I'm Special Agent Torrance, DOD, Inspector General's office. He sat across from her, setting the recorder on the table. This interview is being documented. Do you understand? Yes? Walk me through what happened. Elena recounted the events. The message on her phone. The screens going black. Finding the senator on the floor. She kept her answers short, factual, leaving nothing out but adding nothing either. Torrance made notes on his tablet. You received a threatening message just before the attack? Yes. From who? Unknown number. The message deleted itself. Convenient. Elena's jaw tightened. That's what happened. You're saying someone inside the Pentagon, inside a secure facility, sent you a threat and then shot a United States senator? Yes. Torrance leaned back, studying her. You know how that sounds. I know how it is. Do you have any proof of this message? It deleted itself. Right. He tapped his tablet. Let me tell you what I think happened. I think you've been under enormous stress. You just got reinstated after 8 years off the grid. You're being thrown into a high-stakes investigation, and maybe, just maybe, you're seeing threats that aren't there. Elena kept her expression neutral. You think I imagined a message and then the senator getting shot 30 seconds later is coincidence? I think trauma does strange things to perception. I'm not traumatized. I'm telling you what happened. Torrance set the tablet down. Here's the problem, Captain. The security footage doesn't show anyone firing a weapon. The ballistics team hasn't recovered a bullet yet, and the senator's wound, while serious, could be consistent with a fall onto something sharp. Elena stared at him. You're joking. I'm exploring all possibilities. She was shot. I saw the entry wound. You saw a wound. You assumed it was a gunshot. I've seen enough gunshot wounds to know the difference. Torrance stood. We'll continue this later. In the meantime, you're confined to base pending the completion of our investigation. How long will that take? As long as it takes. He left, taking the recording device with him. The door locked behind him. Elena sat alone in the silent room, her mind racing. They were burying it, already spinning the narrative to make Calhoun's shooting look like an accident or a stress-induced hallucination on Elena's part, which meant whoever was behind this had enough reach to influence the IG's office. Hale wasn't just a rogue general. He was connected, protected, and now Elena was locked in a box with no way to fight back. She checked her watch. Monica had 18 minutes left. Maybe less. 2 floors down, Monica Alvarez was moving fast through corridors she wasn't supposed to be in. The keycard Elena had given her worked, so far. She'd already passed 3 security checkpoints, flashing credentials and a confident smile that got her waved through without questions. The server room was at the end of a hallway marked Authorized Personnel Only. Monica swiped the card. The lock beeped green. Inside, rows of servers hummed in climate-controlled silence. She found Terminal November 7, logged in with the passcode, and started copying files to an encrypted drive. Progress bar. 12 minutes remaining. Monica's hands were shaking. She'd covered war zones, embedded with combat units, interviewed cartel leaders in back alleys. But this was different. This was walking into the belly of the beast with no backup and no safety net. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then she thought about Elena sitting in some interrogation room, counting on her. Yeah? Miss Alvarez. The voice was smooth, cultured, vaguely paternal. My name is General Marcus Hale. I believe you're looking for information about me. Monica's blood went cold. How did you get this number? I have access to a great many things, including the server you're currently raiding. She looked up. No cameras visible, but that didn't mean they weren't there. I'm not raiding anything. I'm a journalist doing research. You're a journalist committing federal crimes, unauthorized access, theft of classified information. That's 20 years in a military prison. He paused. Unless, of course, we can reach an understanding. I'm not interested in deals. Then you're interested in dying young. His tone didn't change, still pleasant, almost friendly. The same people who shot Senator Calhoun are watching you right now. They're waiting for my order. One word from me, and you disappear. No body, no story. Just another reporter who asked too many questions. Monica glanced at the progress bar. 8 minutes. Why are you calling me instead of just killing me? Because I'm not a monster, Ms. Alvarez. I'm a patriot. Everything I've done has been in service to this country. And I'm willing to explain that to you. On the record, full transparency. In exchange for what? You stop the download, you walk away, and you forget Elena Marsh ever involved you in this. That's not happening. Then you're choosing to die for a woman you barely know, for a story that will never see print because you won't be alive to write it. Hale's voice hardened slightly. Be smart. Take the interview. Walk out of there. Live to fight another day. 6 minutes. Monica's finger hovered over the abort button. She could stop the download, save herself, maybe even get the interview Hale was offering, enough to write something without the classified files. But Elena's voice echoed in her head. If we get taken out, you're the only one left to expose it. Monica moved her hand away from the abort button. I'll pass. Silence on the line. Then Hale said quietly, So be it. The call ended. Monica watched the door, expecting it to burst open any second. But nothing happened. The progress bar ticked down. 5 minutes. 4. And then the lights went out. Elena was still in the interrogation room when the building's emergency power kicked in. Red lights bathed everything in crimson. An alarm blared, then cut off abruptly. She stood, moving to the door. Still locked. Footsteps in the hallway outside, shouting. Then gunfire. Sharp, close, unmistakable. Elena backed away from the door, looking for anything she could use as a weapon. The room was empty except for the table and chairs. She grabbed a chair, positioned herself behind the door. It burst open. A man in tactical gear rushed in, rifle raised. Elena swung the chair into his knees. He went down hard. She was on him instantly, wrenching the rifle away, driving the stock into his temple. He stopped moving. She took his weapon, checked the magazine. Full. She also grabbed his radio and earpiece. Voices crackled through. Target secured in server room. Moving to secondary location. Monica. Elena moved into the hallway. Emergency lighting made everything look like a nightmare. Dark corners, long shadows, impossible to tell friend from enemy. She passed 2 bodies, both Marines, both shot execution style. This wasn't a random attack. This was a coordinated assault. She found a stairwell, descended 2 floors. The server room hallway was ahead, door hanging open. Inside, equipment was smashed, servers sparking, and in the center of the room, blood on the floor. But no body. Elena keyed the radio. This is Marsh. I'm in the server room. Monica Alvarez is missing. Repeat, journalist is missing. Static. Then Cross's voice, strained. Copy that. I'm pinned down on sublevel 3. Multiple hostiles. The transmission cut off mid-sentence. Elena cursed, scanning the room for any sign of where they'd taken Monica. She found a blood trail leading to a service elevator. She hit the button. The doors opened onto a shaft descending into darkness. She climbed onto the ladder mounted to the wall, rifle slung across her back, and started down. 3 floors. 4. The shaft went deeper than the building's official schematics showed. At the bottom was a tunnel, concrete and old, stretching in both directions. Elena chose left, moving fast and quiet. The tunnel opened into what looked like an abandoned bunker. Cold War era, judging by the architecture. Rusted equipment, peeling paint, and voices ahead. She pressed against the wall, listening. Told you to kill her in the server room. Hale's voice unmistakable. Too many witnesses. Another voice, younger. We bring her here, clean it up properly. Then do it. We're running out of time. Elena edged forward until she could see into the room. Monica was zip-tied to a chair, face bloodied but conscious. 2 men stood guard. Hale was pacing, phone pressed to his ear. Yes, sir. The operation is contained. Calhoun won't survive the night, and Marsh is being dealt with. A pause. Understood. I'll have confirmation within the hour. He hung up, turning to the guards. Make it look like she was caught in the crossfire. Collateral damage, no execution marks. One of the guards raised his weapon. Elena didn't think. She stepped into the doorway and fired twice. Both guards dropped. Hale spun, reaching for his sidearm. Elena's rifle was already aimed at his chest. Don't. He froze, hand halfway to his holster. Hands up, slow. He complied, raising his hands. His expression wasn't fear, it was calculation. Captain Marsh, I was wondering when you'd show up. On your knees. You're not going to shoot me. Try me. Hale smiled. You won't. Because I'm the only one who knows where Cross is. And right now he's in a room that's filling with gas. You've got maybe 5 minutes before he's dead. Elena's finger tightened on the trigger. Where? Let me go, and I'll tell you. That's not how this works. Then he dies. Hale's voice was calm, almost bored. Your choice, Captain. Kill me and lose Cross. Or let me walk and save him. Clock's ticking. Elena's mind raced. He was lying. Had to be. But what if he wasn't? What if Cross really was dying somewhere while she stood here? Behind Hale, Monica was shaking her head frantically, mouthing something. Don't trust him. Elena lowered the rifle slightly. Tell me where he is first. You think I'm stupid? Hale took a step forward. You let me leave this room. Then I make a call. Then you get the location. And after that, you disappear. Exactly. Elena stared at him, at the arrogance in his eyes, the certainty that he'd already won. She thought about Klein, about the others who'd been erased, about 8 years of running and hiding and being told she didn't matter. She raised the rifle again. Here's my counteroffer. You tell me where Cross is right now, or I put a bullet through your kneecap and ask again. Hale's smile faded. You're bluffing. Elena fired. The bullet hit the concrete inches from his foot. The gunshot was deafening in the confined space. That was a warning. Next one isn't. Hale's composure cracked. You're insane. I'm motivated. Where is he? Sublevel 6, room 14C. But you'll never get there in time. The ventilation system is automated. Even if I wanted to stop it, I couldn't. Elena grabbed her radio. Martinez, you copy? Static. Then, barely. What do you need? Sublevel 6, room 14C. Cross is trapped. Get him out. On it. Elena turned back to Hale. On your knees. Now. This time he obeyed, kneeling slowly. Elena kept the rifle trained on him while she moved to Monica, cutting the zip ties with a knife from one of the dead guards. Monica stood shakily. The files. I got them. Most of them, anyway. Good. Get out of here. Head for the surface. Find anyone with a badge you recognize and don't let them out of your sight until this is over. What about you? I'm finishing this. Monica hesitated, then nodded and ran. Elena turned back to Hale. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. You know this doesn't end with me, he said. There are others. People more powerful than you can imagine. You cut off one head, 3 more grow back. Then I'll keep cutting. You'll die trying. Maybe, but so will you. She heard footsteps behind her, spun, rifle raised. Martinez appeared in the doorway, supporting Cross. He was pale, gasping, but alive. Found him, Martinez said. Bastards had him in a sealed room pumping in carbon monoxide. Another 2 minutes and we'd have been carrying a body. Cross looked at Elena, then at Hale. Is that? Yeah. Cross straightened despite the pain, walking over to stand beside Elena. Together, they looked down at the general who'd orchestrated everything. General Marcus Hale, Cross said, his voice rough but firm. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, treason, and about 15 other charges I'm going to enjoy writing up. Hale stared up at them. This won't stick. I have immunity. I have protection. You had protection, Elena corrected. Past tense. From the doorway, another voice. She's right. They all turned. A man walked in, older, wearing the uniform of a 4-star admiral. Elena didn't recognize him, but from the way Hale's face went white, he clearly did. Admiral Cortez, Hale breathed. General. The admiral's tone was ice. I just got off the phone with the Secretary of Defense. Your operation is officially disavowed. Your immunity is revoked. And every person you thought was protecting you, they're running for cover. Sir, you don't understand it. I understand perfectly. You've been running an illegal black ops network for 6 years. You've murdered American soldiers. You just attempted to assassinate a United States senator. Cortez stepped closer. And worst of all, you've embarrassed the uniform. That general is unforgivable. 2 MPs entered, hauling Hale to his feet. He struggled for a moment, then went limp, the fight draining out of him. As they dragged him toward the door, he looked back at Elena one last time. You think you've won, but this is bigger than me, bigger than all of us. You'll see. Then he was gone. The room fell silent except for the sound of Cross's labored breathing. Elena lowered her rifle, suddenly aware of how exhausted she was, how much everything hurt. Admiral Cortez turned to her. Captain Marsh, Commander Cross, Senator Calhoun is out of surgery. She's critical but stable. She's asking for you. Elena and Cross exchanged glances. We'll go, Elena said. Not yet. The Admiral pulled the folder from inside his jacket. First, there's something you need to see. He opened it. Inside were photographs, dates, names, a network diagram showing connections between dozens of people. Some she recognized, most she didn't. Hale was telling the truth about one thing, Cortez said. This is bigger than him. We've been investigating for months. Your actions today accelerated our timeline, forced people into the open. Who are they? Cross asked. Politicians, contractors, senior military officers, people who've been using Black Ops funding to line their own pockets and settle personal scores. The Admiral's jaw tightened. It goes all the way to the Joint Chiefs. Elena felt the weight of it settle on her shoulders again. They'd cut off one head. But Hale was right. There were others. What do you need from us? She asked. Testimony. Evidence. Everything you've uncovered. We're going to tear this network apart, but we need airtight cases. No room for error. You'll have it. Cortez nodded. Good. Because in 72 hours, we're arresting everyone on this list. Simultaneously. No warnings, no leaks, and when the dust settles, we're going to rebuild from the ground up. He handed the folder to Elena. You started this, Captain. You get to help finish it. What? 3 days later, Elena stood in a hospital room watching Senator Calhoun sleep. The machines around her beeped steadily. The doctor said she'd make a full recovery. Eventually. Cross appeared in the doorway. They're moving on the arrests. All of them. 2 hours from now, every name on that list gets picked up. How many? 47, including 3 senators and a Supreme Court clerk. Elena whistled low. That's going to be a mess. The biggest in decades. Cross moved to stand beside her. Monica's story breaks at the same time. She's got everything. The files, the testimony, photos of Hale in custody. It's airtight. Good. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Cross said, What happens after? After what? After the arrests, after the trials, after everything settles. He looked at her. What do you do? Elena had been asking herself the same question. For 8 years, survival had been her only goal. Then it was justice, revenge, closure. But now that she had it, or was close to having it, she didn't know what came next. I guess I figure out who I am when I'm not running, she said finally. And who's that? She smiled slightly. I'll let you know when I find out. Her phone buzzed. Martinez. Turn on the news. Elena grabbed the remote, switching on the TV mounted in the corner. Every channel was showing the same thing: federal agents conducting raids across the country, generals being led out of the Pentagon in handcuffs, politicians making perp walks in front of cameras, and in the center of it all, Monica's byline, Shadow Network exposed, military's dark secret. The story was everywhere, unstoppable. Cross laughed despite himself. She actually did it. Yeah, she did. Elena watched the coverage, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Not quite peace, but close. Like maybe the fight was finally over. And then her phone rang again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Captain Marsh, the voice was distorted, run through a modulator. Congratulations on your victory. Very impressive. Elena's stomach dropped. Who is this? Someone who appreciates talent. You've done more damage in a week than we anticipated possible. We? The people you think you've beaten. But here's the thing, Captain. You only got the middle tier, the generals and colonels and bureaucrats. The real power? You haven't even seen it yet. If you're trying to scare me, I'm trying to recruit you. Elena went cold. You're smart, resourceful, impossible to intimidate. Exactly the kind of asset we need. So here's the offer. Walk away now. Stop digging. And in return, we make you untouchable. Money, power, protection. And if I refuse? Then we do to you what we did to Klein and Martinez and everyone else you care about, one by one, until you're the last one standing, again. The line went dead. Elena stood frozen, phone still pressed to her ear. Cross was watching her concerned. What is it? She lowered the phone slowly. We missed someone higher up. Who? I don't know, but they just made contact. Cross's expression hardened. What did they say? Elena replayed the conversation in her head, the calm certainty in the distorted voice, the implied threat. They want me to stop, or everyone I care about dies. You can't seriously be considering... I'm not. Elena met his eyes. But they're right about one thing. We only got the middle tier. The real threat is still out there. Then we find them. How? We don't even know who they are. Cross pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. Maybe we do. Look at this. He showed her a list of wire transfers Monica had pulled from the server. Most were flagged and traced, but one set remained encrypted. Millions of dollars moving through offshore accounts to a single destination. Where does it end up? Elena asked. Cross zoomed in on the final account holder, a shell corporation registered in the Cayman Islands. The owner listed as J. Brennan. Elena's blood went cold. Brennan? Mean something to you? Marcus Calloway, the surgeon who froze when I saved Cross's life. His supervisor was named Brennan, Dr. Cole Brennan. She looked up sharply. What if they're related? Cross was already typing, pulling up records. Dr. Cole Brennan, chief of surgery at Riverside General. Before that, military medical liaison. Before that, he stopped, his face going pale. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Health Affairs. He was DOD? 15 years ago, then he transferred to private sector, officially retired. Cross kept scrolling. But look at the timing. Every major Black Ops operation in the last decade, Brennan was in position to approve medical support, personnel transfers, casualty records. Elena felt the pieces clicking into place. Brennan hadn't just been a surgeon at Riverside. He'd been watching her, making sure she stayed buried, and when she'd saved Cross's life, she'd exposed herself. He's the one who flagged Cross's records, she said. He's the one who set this whole thing in motion. To what end? To draw me out, to see if I was still a threat. Elena's hands were shaking. And when I proved I was, he activated Hale in the network to eliminate me. Cross stared at her. If you're right, then he's still out there, and he knows we're coming for him. Her phone buzzed. Another message. Same unknown number. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Let's talk. In person. You know where to find me. An address followed. Riverside General, the surgical wing. Elena showed Cross. It's a trap, he said immediately. Obviously. You're not seriously thinking about going. Elena looked at the address again. The hospital where she'd been suspended, where she'd been humiliated and dismissed, where this whole nightmare had started. Full circle. Yeah, she said. I am. Cross grabbed her arm before she could move. Elena, listen to yourself. You walk in there alone, you're dead. Then come with me. That's not the point. Brennan wants you there because it gives him the advantage. Home turf, controlled environment. He'll have security, backup, escape routes. And I'll have the truth. Elena pulled her arm free. He thinks I'm alone, that I'm desperate. That's his mistake. What if you're wrong? She met his eyes. Then you make sure Monica publishes everything. You make sure the families know. You make sure none of this was for nothing. Cross stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. I'm calling in the team, Martinez, Thompson, Valdez. If you're doing this, you're not doing it alone. He said in person, just me. And you're really going to play by his rules? Elena almost smiled. No, but I'm going to make him think I am. Deemed it. Riverside General looked different at night. The parking lot was half empty, the windows dark except for the emergency wing where lights blazed around the clock. Elena parked in the visitor section, staying visible, making no attempt to hide. If Brennan was watching, and he definitely was, she wanted him to see her coming. She'd changed out of her uniform, civilian clothes now, jeans, a jacket, boots. The Glock was in a shoulder holster under the jacket. A backup knife was strapped to her ankle, and in her pocket, a small recording device Reeves had given her. Martinez's voice crackled through the earpiece hidden under her hair. We're in position, north entrance, south entrance, and the parking garage. You've got eyes on all sides. Copy that. Elena walked toward the main entrance. The automatic doors slid open. Inside, the lobby was quiet. A receptionist sat behind the desk, barely looking up. Elena signed in using a fake name, took a visitor badge, and headed for the elevators. The surgical wing was on the 4th floor. She rode up alone, watching the numbers climb. Her reflection in the polished doors looked tired. Older than she remembered, but steady. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Dr. Cole Brennan stood waiting in the hallway. He looked exactly as she remembered, tall, silver-haired, expensive suit under a white coat. The kind of man who carried authority like a birthright. But there was something different in his eyes now. Not the dismissive arrogance she'd seen before. Something sharper, colder. Captain Marsh. He didn't offer his hand. Thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice. Everyone has a choice. You chose to keep digging, to keep fighting, even when the smart move was to walk away. He gestured down the hallway. This way. She followed him through empty corridors. The surgical wing was closed for the night. No staff, no patients. Their footsteps echoed on the tile. Brennan led her into a conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a table in the center with chairs around it. Nothing else. He closed the door. I assume you're recording this, he said casually, moving to the window. Would it matter if I was? Not particularly. By the time anyone hears it, this conversation will be irrelevant. He turned to face her. Do you know why I asked you here? To kill me. Or try to. Brennan laughed. Actually laughed. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. I have a dozen ways to make that happen without ever being in the same room as you. Then why? Because I'm curious. You were supposed to disappear 8 years ago, vanish completely. And yet here you are. You've dismantled a network that took me a decade to build. You've exposed operations that were supposed to stay buried forever. You've turned yourself into a symbol. He tilted his head. How? Elena kept her distance, staying near the door. I stopped caring what people like you thought of me. People like me? You mean people who make the hard decisions? Who do what's necessary to protect this country? I mean people who use patriotism as an excuse for murder. Brennan's expression didn't change. That mission in Syria, the one you refused. Do you know what that target did 3 months later? Hale told me. Ankara, the marketplace. 312 people, including 86 children. Brennan's voice was calm, clinical. All because you decided your conscience was more important than the mission. He was surrounded by children when we arrived. You expected us to kill them too? I expected you to follow orders. The target could have been isolated, extracted, eliminated without civilian casualties. But you panicked, you aborted, and because of that, hundreds died. Elena felt the words hit like physical blows. That's not what? Not your fault? Tell that to the families in Ankara. Tell them your moral high ground was worth their children's lives. You don't get to put that on me. You're the one who sent us there with bad intelligence. You're the one who classified it so deep we couldn't call for backup. You're the one who buried us when we tried to do the right thing. Brennan moved away from the window, closer to her. The right thing. You keep using that phrase like it means something. But in our world, there is no right thing. There's only what works and what doesn't. You chose what didn't work, and people died because of it. People died because someone bombed a marketplace. Not because I refused to murder children. Semantics. Morality. Same thing. Brennan stopped a few feet away. Here's what I don't think you understand, Captain. The world is not a fair place. It's not just. It doesn't reward virtue or punish evil. It rewards power. And the people with power are the ones who survive. Is that what you tell yourself? That all of this, the murders, the cover-ups, the corruption, is about survival? It's about order. Without people like me, the whole system collapses. You think those arrests today will change anything? They won't. New people will step into those positions. The network will rebuild. Because it has to. Because without it, chaos. Elena took a step closer. You're right about one thing. The world isn't fair. I learned that when I watched my friends die for doing their jobs, when I spent 8 years erased from history, when I got suspended for saving a man's life. She paused. But here's what you don't understand. Unfair doesn't mean unchangeable. Brennan smiled. You think you've changed something? I know I have. Those arrests, those trials, they're going to expose everything, every operation, every name, including yours. My name isn't on any list, Captain. I made sure of that. Actually, it is. Elena pulled out her phone, showing him a document. Wire transfers, offshore accounts, all traced back to you. Monica Alvarez has it. The DoD Inspector General has it. And in about 2 hours, every news outlet in the country is going to have it too. For the first time, Brennan's composure cracked. His eyes widened slightly. That's not possible. Those accounts are encrypted. Were encrypted. Past tense. Elena pocketed the phone. You made a mistake, Brennan. You thought I was alone. That I was weak. That I could be intimidated into silence. But I'm not alone anymore. And the people with me? They're just as angry as I am. Brennan's hand moved to his pocket. Elena's hand moved to her holster. Don't, she said. He froze. Then slowly pulled his hand out, empty. You won't shoot me. Not in cold blood. You're too principled for that. Try me. They stared at each other across the empty room. Then Brennan laughed again, a sound with no humor in it. You really think this ends with me? I'm one person. The network is hundreds, thousands, people in every level of government, military, private sector. You cut me down. Someone else takes my place. Maybe, but at least you won't be around to see it. In her ear, Martinez. Elena, we've got movement. 2 vehicles just pulled into the garage. 6 armed personnel heading for your floor. Elena kept her expression neutral. Your backup? Brennan smiled. Insurance, in case this conversation didn't go the way I hoped. Then I guess it didn't. The door burst open. Men in tactical gear flooded in, weapons raised. Elena's hand was already on her Glock, but there were too many. 8 of them, maybe more in the hallway. Brennan stepped back, putting distance between himself and Elena. Captain Marsh was just leaving. Escort her out, and make sure she doesn't come back. The lead guard moved toward Elena. She didn't move. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. The only mistake I made was letting you live this long. Elena looked at the guards, at Brennan, at the windows overlooking the city, and then she smiled. You know what's funny? You still think you're in control. Brennan frowned. What? The windows exploded inward. Glass shattered in a cascade of sound and light. Ropes dropped from above. Figures in tactical gear fast roped through the broken windows, landing in the conference room with weapons drawn. Martinez, Thompson, Valdez, and behind them a full team of federal agents. The guards spun, trying to aim, but they were surrounded, outgunned, outmaneuvered. Drop your weapons! Martinez's voice cut through the chaos. Now! One by one, the guards complied, setting rifles on the floor, hands raised. Brennan stood frozen, staring at the agents moving toward him. Cross appeared in the doorway, flanked by Admiral Cortez and 2 MPs. Dr. Cole Brennan, you're under arrest for conspiracy, treason, and murder. Among other charges we're still compiling. Brennan's face went white. You can't... I have immunity. You had immunity, Cortez corrected, until about an hour ago when the president personally revoked it. Seems he doesn't appreciate people using his military for personal gain. The MPs moved in, cuffing Brennan's wrists. He struggled for a moment, then stopped, his shoulders sagging. As they led him toward the door, he looked back at Elena. This won't change anything, you'll see. The system protects itself. Then I guess we'll have to change the system, Elena said. Brennan was dragged out. The guards were processed and removed. Within minutes, the conference room was empty except for Elena, Cross, and the team. Martinez approached, grinning. That was fun. We should do this more often. Let's not, Elena said, but she was smiling too. Cross moved to stand beside her, looking out through the broken windows at the city below. It's over. Really over. Brennan was the last one. You sure about that? As sure as I can be. The arrests are done. The trials are starting next month. And the DOD is implementing new oversight protocols, real ones this time. Elena nodded slowly. It was over. The fight she'd been waging for 8 years. The mission that had cost her everything. Finished. She waited to feel relief. Triumph. Something. Instead, she just felt tired. But the next morning, Elena stood in front of the wall at Arlington National Cemetery. Newly carved into the black granite were names that should have been there years ago. Lieutenant Sarah Klein, Staff Sergeant Marcus Vega, Corporal James Reed, 5 others. Her unit. Her friends. Finally honored properly. Behind her, families gathered. Parents, siblings, children who'd grown up thinking their loved ones had died in accidents. Now they knew the truth. It didn't bring anyone back, but at least the lies were over. An honor guard stood at attention. A bugler played taps. The flag was folded and presented to Klein's mother, who clutched it to her chest and wept. Elena stayed until everyone else had left. Then she stood alone in front of Klein's name, tracing the letters with her finger. We got them, she said quietly. All of them. Took a while, but we got there. The stone didn't answer. She hadn't expected it to. Footsteps approached from behind. She didn't turn. You did good, Cross said, stopping beside her. Doesn't feel like it. It never does. Not right away. He was quiet for a moment. The Oversight Task Force officially launched this morning. You're the deputy director. If you want it. Elena looked at him. I thought you were leading it. I am, but I need someone who understands what we're fighting against. Someone who won't back down when things get hard. He paused. Someone who's already proven they can't be broken. Elena turned back to the wall, to the names etched in stone. What if I don't want to keep fighting? What if I just want to rest? Then you rest. You've earned it, but I think we both know you're not built for rest. Not yet, anyway. He was right. She'd spent 8 years running, then another week tearing down the people who'd tried to erase her. The fight was all she knew anymore. But maybe that was okay. Maybe some people were meant to fight. Not because they wanted to, but because someone had to. She looked at Cross. What's the first case? He smiled. There's a whistleblower. Air Force. Says there's a black site in Poland where prisoners are being held without trial. No records, no oversight. No one believes her. Let me guess. She's been labeled unstable, suspended, threatened. All of the above. Elena nodded. When do we start? Whenever you're ready. She took one last look at the wall, at Klein's name, at the others who'd paid the price for doing what was right. I'm ready. 3 months later, Elena walked into Riverside General for the first time since her suspension. She wasn't there as a patient or an employee. She was there as the guest speaker for the hospital's annual ethics symposium. The auditorium was packed. Doctors, nurses, administrators, medical students, all of them watching as she took the stage. Dr. Voss was in the front row. He'd resigned 2 weeks after Brennan's arrest, citing personal reasons. Marcus Calloway sat 3 rows back, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Elena stood at the podium looking out at the crowd. A year ago, these people had dismissed her, underestimated her, told her she didn't belong. Now they were silent, waiting. She gripped the podium, took a breath, and began. A year ago, I stood in a trauma bay watching a man die because the doctor in charge froze. I stepped in. I saved his life. And I was suspended for it. She paused. Not because I did something wrong, but because I violated hierarchy, because I didn't know my place. The room was dead silent. I spent 8 years being told I didn't matter, that my voice didn't count, that I should be grateful just to survive. Elena's voice grew stronger. And for a long time I believed it. I kept my head down. I stayed quiet. I accepted that the system was bigger than me and there was nothing I could do to change it. She looked directly at Calloway. I was wrong. He shifted uncomfortably. Change doesn't come from the people in power. It comes from the people they underestimate, the ones they dismiss, the ones they think don't matter. Elena's hands tightened on the podium. Every person in this room has been told to stay in their lane at some point, to not rock the boat, to trust that the people above you know what they're doing. She paused. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And when they don't, it's your responsibility to speak up, even if it costs you, even if it's hard, even if no one else will stand with you. In the audience, a young nurse in the back row was nodding, eyes bright. The patient I saved that day? He's alive because I refused to stand by and watch him die. The truth that got exposed? It came out because people refused to let it stay buried. The system that's being rebuilt? It's happening because enough people said no more. Elena stepped away from the podium, her voice dropping but somehow carrying further. You don't need permission to do the right thing. You don't need authority to speak the truth. You just need courage. And sometimes courage is just being too stubborn to give up. She looked across the faces in front of her. Some hostile, some skeptical, but many, so many, were listening. Really listening. I can't promise it'll be easy. I can't promise you won't lose things along the way. I lost almost everything. Her voice cracked slightly. But I'm standing here, and the people who tried to erase me, they're the ones who are gone now. She stepped back to the podium. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you see something wrong, in this hospital, in your practice, in your life, don't look away. Don't stay silent. Don't wait for someone else to fix it. Stand up, speak out. And when they tell you to back down, when they tell you you're just a nurse or just a resident or just not important enough to make a difference, Elena smiled. Prove them wrong. The applause started slowly. One person in the back, then another. Then the entire room was standing, clapping, some of them with tears in their eyes. Elena stepped off the stage. Voss approached her in the hallway after. That was powerful, he said quietly. It was true. I know, and I'm sorry for what I did, for not listening. Elena studied him. The man who'd suspended her, who'd chosen hierarchy over humanity. He looked older now, smaller. I don't forgive you, she said, but I accept your apology. He nodded. That's more than I deserve. She walked past him, out into the parking lot where Cross was waiting by the car. How'd it go? He asked. Better than expected. She climbed in. Let's go. We've got work to do. They drove away from Riverside General, leaving it behind for the last time. Elena looked back once in the side mirror, watching the building shrink in the distance. She'd come here broken, dismissed, underestimated. She was leaving stronger than she'd ever been. 6 months after Brennan's arrest, Elena stood in a Senate hearing room giving testimony. The chamber was packed with press, senators, and military brass. Every word she spoke was being recorded, transcribed, broadcast. She told them everything: Syria, the cover-up, the murders, the network, the fight to expose it all. When she finished, the chairman leaned forward. Captain Marsh, in your opinion, how do we prevent something like this from happening again? Elena thought about Klein, about the others who'd died, about the system that had buried them. You listen, she said simply. When someone tells you something's wrong, you listen. You investigate. You don't dismiss them because they're low-ranking or inconvenient or telling you something you don't want to hear. She paused. Power without accountability is just tyranny in uniform. And if we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard, we don't deserve the authority we've been given. The chairman nodded slowly. Thank you, Captain. Your testimony has been invaluable. After the hearing, reporters swarmed. Elena ignored most of them, but Monica Alvarez caught her eye. One question, Monica said. What's next for you? Elena smiled. More of the same. There are more whistleblowers out there, more buried truths, more people who need someone to stand with them. She looked directly into Monica's camera. And I'm not going anywhere. What? A year after it all began, Elena sat in the operations center that had become her second home. Screens covered the walls showing active investigations. Her team, expanded now to include specialists, analysts, and a legal division, worked around her. Cross walked in carrying coffee. New case just came in. Navy contractor in San Diego says she witnessed falsified safety reports on submarine systems. Got fired when she reported it. Elena took the coffee. Evidence? Documentation. Emails. Test results. It's solid. Then we move on it. Martinez appeared in the doorway. Elena, you've got a visitor. Elena frowned. I'm not expecting anyone. I know, but I think you'll want to see this. She followed Martinez to the front entrance. Standing there, looking nervous and out of place, was a young man in his early 20s. He had Klein's eyes. Elena's breath caught. You're David Klein, Sarah's brother. He shifted his weight. I wanted to thank you for what you did, for making sure people know how she really died. Elena didn't know what to say. I'm sorry I couldn't save her. You saved her memory. That's more than anyone else did. He paused. She talked about you in her letters, said you were the toughest person she knew, that if anyone could survive impossible odds, it was you. Elena's throat was tight. She was wrong. I barely survived. But you did, and you didn't stop there. You fought back. You won. David smiled, and it was so much like Sarah's smile that Elena had to look away. She would have been proud. After he left, Elena stood alone in the hallway. Cross found her there 20 minutes later. You okay? Yeah. She wiped her eyes. Good. Liar. She almost laughed. Yeah, but I will be. They walked back to the operations center together. There was work to do. Cases to investigate, people to help, truths to uncover. The fight wasn't over. It probably never would be. But Elena wasn't the same person who'd walked into Riverside General a year ago. She'd been broken down, underestimated, dismissed. Now she was the person people called when they had nowhere else to turn. The person who stood up when everyone else stayed silent. The person who proved that power didn't come from rank or authority or permission. It came from refusing to back down, from choosing truth over comfort, from standing up even when you stood alone. She looked at the screen showing investigations in progress, at her team working to expose corruption and hold the powerful accountable, at the mission that had become her purpose. They'd tried to erase her, to bury her, to make her disappear. Instead, they'd created exactly what they feared most: someone who couldn't be silenced, someone who wouldn't stop fighting, someone who turned their own weapon against them. Elena Marsh had spent 8 years in the shadows. Now she was the light that exposed them all, and she was just getting started.